What's up, folks? Welcome back to Stream. It's Wednesday. The Warhamster has arrived. They've delivered us every single Chaos detachment for the new edition, which, yeah, we're going to go over. I think you all know the drill at this point. We're just going to read through them and see where we're at. Let's go. Let's hop in. So interested to see what they have for Imperial Fist. Well, I have bad news for you, chat. Imperial Fists are, in fact, contrary to popular belief. I know this is hard to believe. They're, in fact, not a Chaos faction. So, there you go. Also, they've already been done. They released Imperial Fist stuff yesterday. Or on Monday. So, if you want to see Imperial Fist stuff, you can watch my stream for Monday. It was kind of mid. They didn't have any new stuff, so the Space Marine supplement chapters are not really supported that well. Although the interesting thing about all of this is that that's fucked. Wait, holy shit. My computer is fucked, chat. How did this happen? One sec. Apparently I have to uninstall Adobe. I went through this whole thing on Monday where I was like, I'm going to reset my app for PDFs because Adobe is really slow when I do it on a live stream. Actually, when you use it normally. Apparently, it has reasserted itself as my default PDF viewer. That's fucked, actually. What a shit show of a fucking application. As a PSA, uninstall Adobe Acrobat from your machine. It's just like a parasite. It's so bad. All right, let's hop in and let's talk about some Chaos Space Marines. So we're going to start with regular old Chaos Space Marines. Now I have to reset myself because, yeah, I don't know. This is fucked. That just messed me up really bad because I was ready to go. I was like all fucking prepared, and then I decided to reset a bunch of applications. So Chaos Space Marines stuff that we should know about. Apparently, Creations of Bile, Renegade Raiders, Huron's Marauders, and PBZ are all 3-pointed detachments. Creations of Bile, I guess, does make sense. It is a lot of stuff. It's a little surprising, though. Huron's Marauders tracks. There is some good stuff in here. I know Fellhammer Siege Host already see some play. That's going to be able to be played sort of in addition to other stuff. You're also going to be able to looks like lock together stuff like Nightmare Hunt and Murder Talons, right? Which is like kind of interesting. So yeah, there's probably interesting play in there for sure. Can't escape Copilot. I'm a level chat. I don't even know what that is. So there you go. All right, let's hop in and talk about some Chaos stuff. Cabal of Chaos is the new and improved version of the Demon Prince detachment that we had previously, right? It gives bonuses to your non-demon psyker units. It is interesting that it's psyker units excluding demon units. So even if you have a non-demon psyker model inside your unit, you don't get the effect at all. Although I don't know necessarily if that's the case. I know Masters of Possession join demon units, but I don't know if they have the demon keyword themselves. In previous editions, they didn't, but I can't remember if they do now. Not that it matters here, because they won't get any buffs. Whenever you're selected to shoot and you make a Dark Pact, you get +1 strength. Now, this is Psyker units, obviously, so if you attach a sorcerer into your unit, it will affect... the whole unit will get the effect of this ability. In addition, when a Demon Prince unit is excluding Khorne is selected to fight, it gets +2 strength, +1 AP in melee. And it makes a Dark Pact because their melee profile sucks. They have the 10th edition melee profile curse where everything's low strength and low AP and everything sucks. And so they're like, hey guys, here's a whole detachment to try to fix that. And did they succeed? Unlikely, but there we are. We have an enhancement to make a model a Psyker, so they get affected by the Psyker payoff at the start. And then we have a Demon model unit excluding Khorne to give that model Lance. Poor Khorne Demon's just getting wrecked over here. Unfortunate. We have a Stratagem to heal Psyker or Demon units. Interesting. I don't know if there's, huge payoffs here. I guess, You could heal Terminators or something, which would be interesting, but you can't really like you could put this in. No, yeah, I don't really know where the best place for this is. It's probably just Possessed. You can like regenerate Possessed back to a unit, which is kind of sweet. Which is probably one of the reasons that we don't see it in conjunction with something like, Creation's Bile, because Possessed are phenomenal in that detachment. Fleshy Curse. Selects a visible enemy unit within 12 at the start of your shooting phase. You roll d6 on a 1, they take 1 mortal wound. On a 2+, they take d3. On a 5+, they take 2d3 mortal wounds. It's considered a psychic attack, and then Wreathed in Warpflame gives the Psyker units ranged attacks ignore cover. This is all like pretty solid, but the problem is the payoff for the necessity to take Psyker is not that great. Especially because I don't think that there are many particularly playable like psychic units inside Chaos Space Marines. It's literally like it's the MOP, right? The Master Possession. I believe that the Dark Commune is Psyker keyworded. Yeah, they are. Because they have the Mind Witch inside the unit. And the like sorcerers, of course, but sorcerers are sort of like mid in general if you're not taking the individual Terminator sorcerers. And the other one is the Nemesis Claw, is Psyker keyworded. So it's like 5 units, and most of the time you buff their ranged attacks, which is not really what we're looking for here. So I don't know. This feels kind of like DOA, to be honest. But we'll see. Maybe there's a combo in there that somebody can sort of figure out. Devotees of Destruction gives Havocs and Obliterators Heavy, which is awesome because Heavy is an actual legitimate keyword now. That's good and not a joke, especially because these guys are infantry and they have Deep Strike. Being able to like sort of rapid ingress them and then move 3 inches and get +1 to hit on the subsequent turn is actually pretty awesome. So I'm kind of into that. And you can use this alongside the detachment that lets them uppy downy, right? So there's, I think, a lot of there's a lot of play with these guys. I don't know necessarily if you're going to be, like just like windmill slamming a million of them, but as a 1-point detachment, it feels like it could be okay. I definitely think that heavy weapon infantry squads are more interesting in this edition than they have been in the past. I don't know necessarily whether I'm willing to say that they're going to be like incredibly strong, but I do think that they're cool. Path of Destruction gives you rerolls on leadership rolls, which affects your Dark Packs as well for Warpsmiths. In addition, in your shooting phase, when the unit is shot, if the unit uses the Dark Pact and those attacks destroy an enemy, this unit heals 3 wounds. So you could potentially regenerate Obliterators back to your unit. I actually don't know if that's true. I think it's because it is a Warpsmith. I think it's only Havocs that works for. It also works, I guess, for like Legionaries, but obviously the intention is that you're going to use it with Havocs. I mean, I guess that's okay, but I don't know if I'm attaching Warpsmiths into my Havoc squads. He doesn't really do anything for the unit, right? He just vibes. He's just hanging out. Yeah, I don't know. That's whatever. It also only gives him the healing if he shoots someone. He doesn't work if he melees someone. So even if you take him with Legionaries, or you take him by himself and he just punches a guy with his big axe, it doesn't work. It doesn't heal. It's a little bit weird. It also requires you to destroy an enemy model, which is not too hard, I guess. It would be cool if he could use that to heal something nearby him, instead of healing only himself, because I think the requirement that Warpsmiths to attach into units is a little bit tough. Eye of Oblivion it gets put on a Warpsmith. When the unit is selected to shoot, select one enemy unit within 24 inches of this unit. That enemy unit has +6 inches of detection range until this unit is shot, which definitely feels a little bit better for Havocs. You can push to like a 21-inch or 18-inch detection range. However, it feels to me like Havocs, in a lot of cases, are going to be rocking anti-tank weapons, and tanks obviously can't hide. So we're required to, for these enhancements, we're required to attach an expensive character into our unit that doesn't give the unit a buff, and then also attach an enhancement onto the character. Feels like a lot of work. We have to take Havocs, we have to take Warpsmiths, we have to put the two together, and we have to enhance them. That's like 4 steps. to make any of these go. That said, I do think just Havocs in general with Heavy is good. So I think the enhancements are a miss, but the detachment ability is not too bad, especially if you are playing something that sort of synergizes well with Havocs. Although Creations of Bile and Huron's Marauders are both 3 detachment point detachments. So in Strike Force games, you're not going to be able to combo these together. So I don't know really where we're putting Havocs, to be honest. Ruination's Bounty. When a friendly Havoc or Obliterator unit is selected to shoots, you can get both lethal and sustained. We love that. That's pretty good. I'm going to sneeze real quick. Sorry. No, I'm not. Just kidding. Ooh. I feel a little bit like I have a cold this morning, which I hope I fucking don't. I think it's that I recorded a relatively long video last night, and I've been, live for like 3 hours time. So I think it's just that I've just been talking a lot this week, and it's a little hot in my area too. So my like AC's been blasting, which obviously dries out the air, which probably doesn't help at all. So I'm hoping that that's it. I'm very much hoping I'm not sick the day before ACO. That would be bad. Snare of Fire. Using your opponent's movement phase when an enemy unit ends a move within 8 inches of an unengaged Havoc unit, you make a normal move D3+3. Phenomenal. That's great. We love that. Being able to like have your Havocs like pop out and blast people, and then if against a melee army, they push up to you and you just run away. That's awesome. And you just hop back. Undying Hatred is when in your opponent's shooting phase, an enemy unit targets a friendly Havoc or Obliterator unit, attacks to target your unit with a strength greater than your unit's toughness, have -1 to wound. Especially good on Obliterators, I think, because they have a high base toughness characteristic, and they're high saving throw as well, so they're tough to kill. I do think Havocs in a lot of cases will just be killed, but Obliterators will probably survive at least one activation. I love these, chat. I think these are awesome. Pretty sweet. Sounds good. I'm in. I definitely think this is the highlight of the trio so far. The other one that we do have is Murder Talon Raiders. This gives you reroll hit rolls of 1 against enemies that are battle shocked or below half strength. And when you're for your flying units, when your flying units are attacked by battle shocked or below half strength, I guess it's at or below half strength, which is good. Enemies, you also get -1 to be hit. It's a little bit of a Neurolictor kind of effect for all of your like Raptors and Warp Talons. You can give a Chaos Lord with a jump pack, 5+ invulnerable. He has a 4+, but for the rest of the unit, it gets a 5+, which is nice. Pact of Cursed Pinions gives you Demon and +1 melee attack, which is it's okay, I guess. I don't really know what Demon does. I guess like maybe you can combo these. Is there a combo here? If we take is there some sort of demon payoff? Yes, a demon unit can heal D3+1 if we take this with Cabal of Chaos. We've done it, chat. We've done it. Let's go. That's kind of silly, but I think the real thing is here we can take this alongside Nightmare Hunt, right? This gets the Nightmare tag, but as we've seen, and I guess we should have gone through FAQs, but I can't imagine that they break the trend here with specifically Chaos Space Marines, where they are not adding tags to the Codex detachments. So at the time of recording, you can combo this with Nightmare Hunt, which means that when your opponent is battle shocked, and you are a flying unit, so a Raptor or a Warp Talon, and remember, the Raptors are going to be forcing battle shock checks on you multiple times. You get reroll hit rolls of 1, +1 to hit, -2 to be hit, and +1 to wound. It's +1 to hit if they're below half strength, but you are -2 to be hit and +1 to wound, and reroll hit rolls of 1. So I don't know. There's a lot going on here. Plus, there's a lot of ways to force additional battle shock checks, which can help you get all these payoffs, which is pretty sick. So I don't know. is focusing entirely on the battle shock section gonna be a thing? Who knows? Obviously, there are like some pretty solid payoffs for it if you do get to the point where you are failing battle shock checks. You do have to jump through some hoops to actually achieve the battle shock checks, but you do have a lot of ways to do that, so that's not too bad. You can also get flying infantry lance, which I think is generally good because it also affects your warp talons, which makes them more consistent at destroying things, destroying the unit so they can use their up down. That unit's going to be disgusting as well because obviously sort of disruption infantry that can deep strike is incredibly strong. So being able to drop that unit and like move, charge, lance it, destroy something, pop back up, and then do the same cycle, it's so much more difficult for your opponent to interact with you because you can just be 15 inches away inside terrain, be hidden, and no one can shoot you. So it's not even a case of 9th or 10th edition where you had to sort of edge yourself out of line of sight. Now you just simply can't be shot. So that style of unit's already good, and this just makes it better. I do think, in general, like Raptors, Warp Talons, that style of unit is going to be really dynamic, and I think that those disruption units are going to be so strong. I do think that stuff like this that buffs them explicitly is going to be good. I wouldn't be surprised to see that this kind of detachment ends up being the thing that gets kind of splashed into existing compositions. Raking Pass is in your movement phase, when in flying unit is select to make a fallback move, you can still charge. Not too bad. I do think that in a lot of cases, like Raptors, Warp Talons ideally are not in melee, and Raptors are just going to die. So I guess in some cases this will be helpful. Definitely not a bad ability to have in general. And then Warp Twisted Terrors is... select one visible enemy unit, excluding monster vehicles, with a 9. The enemy takes battle shock attack at -1. It is when a warp talon unit ends a move. It is with a 9, and this now triggers on Ringrest moves. So you can drop in and force a battle shock, and then charge and force another battle shock. And then if you are also running things like Noise Marines, I guess the Noise Marine ability, I think, affects the target until the start of your next shooting phase. So they would not trigger alongside this, I believe. Oh, it does. Excuse me. It's shooting phase, not not movement phase. So you could do something like rock Noisy Boys, shoot a unit, and then trigger this on it the next turn, and they will still be affected by the -1 battle shock check thing. So you are going to be able to like stack a bunch of different battle shock abilities together. Seems very good. I think even outside of the synergy with Nightmare Hunt, which obviously is like fine, but and certainly better with the changes to battle shock. I don't know necessarily if it is, the most consistent game plan of all time. If you just hit stuff that that is
Beyond 6,931 donated $5 through Super Chat. Read Funiwes comment smile.
Rude Funiway a comment? What does that mean? Tags are coming with Munitorum according to Warcon Siegler article. That would be bizarre. I don't understand why they would not tag in the faction pack. But I also don't know which article you're referring to. Oh, is it this one with Astra Militarum on it? Talk about force dispositions, points updates. A new system of point steppers. Oh, I like this. Will increase the cost of data sheets on your third inclusion. That's pretty sweet. Some extremely powerful data sheets like the filer will have this additional cost if you take a second and third unit. That's awesome. We love that. Secondary missions, terrain, tactical challenges. Minotaur Field Manual, but will be released soon, containing unit points, war gear points, force disposition, establishment points, detachment unique keywords, and leader options. So it could be that they add them in Munitorum. That makes no sense, though, right? Why would they do that there and not in the faction pack? I don't understand. I don't get it, chat. It doesn't make sense to me. But I guess it is what it is. I don't know if necessarily it is fair to assume that all of these detachments will be exclusive with one another, because it seems like if they are putting them into the Munitorum rather than into the rules themselves, the idea is to use them as like a balance lever. There's definitely some stuff that I think is probably too strong on the baseline. The big ones like the crude hunting pack and auxiliary cadre together feels like very abusive. It's just like two perfectly overlapping detachments that like perfectly work together. If they do things like prevent you from taking Lost Brethren with the new Death Watch or Death Company thing, that would make me sad, because those like are very synergistic and interesting. So my hope would be that they don't necessarily go through and tag literally 100% of these without them getting played first. Would be the hope there. I don't know, because they're $1 billion company. Yeah, it's a funny thing. There's like there's a bunch of like funny little like rules things that have been like people are like picking out, which I know are not going to get fixed for like 6 months, and it's going to be very frustrating. And I do want to like, I don't know, I want to crash out about the community a little bit. It's because like I would love to do a video where I do call out for like specific things that could be changed, which I think, or that need to be changed, right? I think like the charge roll modifier is the big one. Like those affecting you on charge is like mechanically very bad, or mechanically like weird, because it has to like affect affect rolls that have happened retroactively. It's almost like re-rolling something that your opponent already rolled, right? It's like once you pass your opponent a save, they go, no, you have to re-roll your hit roll or something. Like, what? Excuse me? And then also like they're just not very strong, right? Because like you just make the charge anyway, and it's just like is an inconvenience for you. So like that's a good example. The times where they have like enhancements, like duplicated enhancements for whatever reason, like that's a good example. That do like very very slightly different things. What the fuck is that? There's a bunch of stuff that hasn't changed, and obviously like unit keywords and stuff like that. But the problem is I know that if I talk about any of that stuff, people are just gonna be like, people are just gonna call me an asshole, and I don't understand it. I absolutely don't get it. So I don't know. It is what it is. They said in their articles that Coven and Phalanx would be 2 detachment points. Did they in the Thousand Suns article? I guess we could talk about it when we get to Thousand Suns. I'm not gonna look at it right now. But there's been a lot of stuff that they ended up, I think, either deciding to change in the later stages or just being wrong about. I think the other thing was like a bunch of their forced dispositions that they played on live streams were wrong. So we were like, I think we were sort of trying to decide forced dispositions. I think we played Aspect Host as being priority assets, because that's what Liam Bissell played on, or VSL played on stream, and then they ended up being just whatever instead. So I don't know, man. Yeah. It is what it is. I think probably they realized after the fact on reflection. Like I bet all those like hype articles were written, 6 months ago, and then on reflection, a lot of the balance stuff has changed before the PDFs go out, and I think that's probably fine. But we can cross that bridge when we come to it. So anyway, Murder Talon Raiders seems pretty good. I don't know. here's a bunch of stuff that we can talk about later because it almost certainly hasn't changed whatsoever. So we're just going to go ahead and skip it. Oh my god, there's so much. Why do they have so many detachments? I doubt that any of these data sheets have changed. I do. I worry for mutilators because I do wonder if this unit's going to be any good. I think it's not. It feels like this is just the style of unit that gets hit really hard by the changes to how engagement works. Although I guess I don't know how big their base size is. How big is a mutilator base size, chat? Can we find out? Let's go to Games Workshop's website and look up mutilators. Because 50 mil bases are okay. It's 60 mils they get really like hammered. Oh, they're 50 mil. Okay, so it's not the end of the world for these guys. These guys actually basically just fight the same way that they did in the previous edition, because if you are a 50 mil base, you're just out under 2 inches. So when you're base with the guy in front of you who's base, you can still fight through them with a 2-inch engagement range. When you get to 60 plus, that's where things break down because you actually basically just can't fight. The problem with these guys is that they have the for whatever reason, Games Workshop loves to print this version of Crushing Charge, and I don't understand why mutilators just keep having to be the worst unit ever. They just hate this unit so much, even though they just released a pretty new kit for them. They're just like, nah, you guys still can't be good. They have this version of the impact attacks where they do impact mortals based on the number of models in their unit in engagement range of the target. Now, in fairness, it is much easier to do nowadays than it was previously. However, because their bases are so big, a lot of times it's difficult to get a lot of models into engagement range. So what they should do is just be based on the size of the unit, which would only, I think, net end up 1 extra roll for D3 mortals potentially. But the fact that you are paying like out the nose for these elite heavy infantry that you can't like make full use of because of that is really stupid. So I don't know about these guys. Poor mutilators. I just want to take a tangent on mutilators there for a sec. It doesn't seem that sort of like defilers have changed or anything. So I think we are going to move over to updates and stuff and look at those real quick. I think there's a lot of updates that we would have expected. The Helldrake gains movement 12 and OC 0. Movement 12. Oh, I guess it's hover, so it's move 12 over stuff, but it's weird that it's slower than most other aircraft. I wonder, does that make a Helldrake better or worse? I think it's worse because they're really big, right? I guess like it can charge now, whereas previously, for some reason, it was a melee aircraft that couldn't charge if you used aircraft rules. But they're so fucking massive that your opponent's just gonna see them and shoot at them. They're gonna die. And like the payoff is like 5 2-damage melee attacks. I don't know about Helldrakes, man. I would love Helldrakes to be good, but they just seem like they are so set up to be bad. Veterans of the Long War, eager for vengeance, gives bears eligible to shoot and declare charge concerning which you fall back. Some a model of the birds you makes an attack targets your focus of hatred. If the unit fell back, this turn plus the hit. And each time you select your focus of hatred as a target of the unit's charge, add 1 to the charge roll. This is another like thing where it's like it's retroactive charge dice manipulation. It's so stupid. It doesn't actually make your charge longer, it just makes your movement longer. Which is weird. It's so weird and bad. Yeah, I don't know. I just really don't like the mechanical implication that we can look back in time to change dice rolls that have already happened. It's just like It's just messy. That's just a messy effect. Helldrake doesn't have frame. Maybe not. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it does. So they've added frame to like every aircraft, but it seems like I guess like I don't know if the Storm Raven had got frame. That's probably a good litmus test, right? If we go to the Space Marine faction pack, oh, that's going to take a million years to open. It's going to be all stupid if I do that. Let's grab. What? All right. This is not worth my time. I'm not gonna look it up. I don't understand what my computer's doing with my with the files that I've been downloading all week. I'm supposed to have these on my hard drive, and I don't know where they went. But so it doesn't matter. I have no idea if like hover vehicles have retained frame. So we'll see. This is all sort of normal stuff. All right. Well, I guess we're just gonna go ahead and move on. I don't know. This is stupid. Let's talk about the next faction. Chaos Space Marines certainly are chaotic. The next faction will be. I have to go find the article again. We'll talk about World Eaters, I suppose. They're apparently next in Games Workshop's list, so clearly they must love them. Oh my fucking god. Frame is just the keyword that gives you hull measurement now. So instead of like having to note in a separate document which units do and do not use hull measurement, you just have the frame keyword. The weird and, in my opinion, controversial decision that they've made is that aircraft all are getting the frame keyword, which is really obnoxious because it obviously has created problems in the past. I like one of my highest reporting videos in the entire channel was one where we talked about a situation where a player was banned for life for a tournament by hull measuring from their Storm Raven gunship. But their Storm Raven gunship was like, because the model's imperfect, slightly different height off the table, and that like massively changes how the balance of the model is. Turns out, chat, hull measurement is a pox and is bad. But they've given it to a bunch of new units, which is not my favorite thing in the world, so we're gonna have to deal with that. But I don't know necessarily if they've given it to the previous aircraft models that are now no longer aircraft. They did to Harry Dan, but Harry Dan had a weird base, so I kind of understand it. But I don't know if they've done it to other stuff. All right, so let's talk about World Eaters. I guess what would be important to note is, please go away. I don't want to deal with you. What the detachment points are. Berserker Warband is the only 3 detachment point detachment that we have, which makes sense because it's a massive charge bonus. Everything else is either 1 or 2. And what's interesting is that Berserker Warband, I guess Berserker Warband, Brazen Engines, and Possessed Slaughterband are all purge. Everything else is we're doing some actions and stuff. Khorne Demonkin is reconnaissance, which is interesting. Khorne Demonkin does have a lot of like up down kind of stuff, so that does actually make sense. But Khorne Demonkin being 2 is interesting. Because maybe we can put something else in there. I don't know what that would be, but could be good. Yeah, Eldar vehicles not getting frame is a big thing. They need to do like a second pass on all these documents, and I know they're not going to. Which is gonna be a fucking mess, dude. So I don't know, man. I know they're just gonna It is what it is. But you know, here we are. So anyway, let's talk about Brace and engines. Demon vehicles. At the start of the fight phase, can select one or more unengaged enemy units engaged with this unit. That enemy unit makes a battle shock roll. Is it battle shock rolls? It's not a battle shock test. Am I a crazy person? Am I an insane human? Where's my core rule book? Where's my core rules at? Oh my god, Adobe, fucking actually fuck off. That's like really tilting me. I can't believe that it did that. I'm just uninstalling that software. That's nuts. So battle shock roll, is that a thing? It is a battle shock roll. So are there no more battle shock tests? Huh. That's interesting. Is there, because the previous nomenclature was battle shock test, right? I'm not crazy. It is. Oh no. Oh no, chat. What if we search battle shock test, does it come up with anything? No. Oh my god. That's so bad. Like I have Noise Marines up. You take battle. You get -1 leadership to battle shock test. I mean, this one works because it's a leadership test, which I assume still counts, right? I know previous editions, a battle shock test was a leadership test. Oh no. So this is, I think, relevant because every data sheet that references battle shock test doesn't work anymore. Like here's Shadow in the Warp, which forces a battle shock test on each enemy unit on the battlefield. That's not a mechanic, right? It just doesn't do anything. Yeah, if you look up battle shock test, it just doesn't exist anywhere. Oh my god, dude. Why would they just change that? That's got to be an addendum, right? That's got to be an addendum thing where it's just like any reference to battle shock test means battle shock roll. What's the mechanical difference between a test and a roll? Test doesn't exist. The mechanical distance is that one of them exists, the other one doesn't. Yeah. They just forgot to write that. That must be an addendum. That's gotta be. I'm gonna choose to believe that they didn't fuck their core rules that hard. That's interesting. I just never noticed that it was called a roll until just now. I just was like, my brain just transplanted the existing nomenclature for that mechanic in there. I mean, I fucking hope that's fixed, chat. If it's not, the game is fucked. Yeah. But the thing is that like you have to say that somewhere, right? If they just say replace all instances of test with roll, I mean they could do that. But it's weird. It's like I guess it's like because I don't know. I don't know why they would get rid of the test nomenclature. I guess it's because like anytime you like roll dice, it like just sort of calling it a roll is much easier. But it's just very strange. Like I don't know, like bureaucratic change to make for no real reason that actually like requires a bunch of FAQs. That's stupid. Tyranids back at the bottom where they belong, yeah, for sure. God, I hope that's in there. Ooh, let's go on the list of annoying things. All right. Anyway, let's talk about this stuff. You can upgrade a Mauler Fiend out of Cleave 2. We saw that one. It's only one melee weapon, so it's kind of whatever. There's a lot of cleave effects that are like, they affect one weapon. And you're like, okay, so I could get +2 attacks, which isn't bad in a lot of cases, but it's not like necessarily like a huge, like massive, unless you're triggering it multiple times. Like attacking whatever. He goes from like, I guess he goes from like 8 to 10 because he's the World Eaters one, right? Against 5 model units, which is probably enough to kill them, whereas normally they would be left on like 2 models, but it is what it is. There's no difference between test and roll. Yeah, so I think it's because like the physical action of taking a battle shock test is to roll 2 dice. It probably makes sense from like a conceptual standpoint to call it a roll instead of a test. But yeah, they need to they have to addend that, of course, which I hope that they do, because it is frustrating when they just like change random verbiage that has like massive implications. Obviously, we don't have all of the paperwork, of course, so things could be different. Who knows? Let's see. You can make a vehicle into a demon, so then it gets the detachment ability. We can ignore modifiers to ballistic weapon skill, hit roll, and wound rolls. Pretty good stuff. Trail of Destruction gives you mobile on a vehicle unit. That's phenomenal. We love that. And Goaded to Fury gives you a surge move on a demon vehicle. I'd be interested to see if this ends up surviving. What's annoying is that like the implication that there are tags coming means that we can't talk about any of these in like any interesting context. Because it's like, oh, are there going to be Gorchak? Is there Gorchak onslaught implications for this? Well, it seems like probably not if these are getting tagged the same tag, which means like, I don't know. This is like sort of pointless to talk about. How the fuck do we even use this? I don't know. I don't know what I can use it with. So yeah, it is what it is. If we can like drop in a land raider into or a rhino or whatever, like just being able to like drop rhinos that can go through walls into things is like pretty sweet. But I don't know what detachments you can put them in now. So anyway, and like having surge moves on your rhinos by upgrading them is like pretty cool too. Although I guess you could like you could do such things where if it takes multiple activations for your opponent to kill you, you could like surge move a rhino into position and then use the. Well, I guess you couldn't surge move into the reactive disembarkation that the World Eaters Rhino has, which is unfortunate because the one happens in the movement phase and one happens in the shooting phase. But having multiple sets of overlapping reactive effects is pretty cool. So I bet there's interesting play there. That definitely feels pretty open. Butchers of Corn is the last one. At the start of the fight phase, a friendly Terminator squad is engaged. Make a Blessing of Corn roll. Use the results to activate one Blessing of Corn. Until the end of the phase, that Blessing of Corn is active for friendly Terminator squad units. In addition, so all Terminator squads get one additional Blessing of Corn, in addition to any existing Blessings of Corn. Does making your vehicles demons have synergies with Demonkin? No, because Demonkin uses the Blood Legion keyword. So like Demon doesn't have any, or like the Demon keyword, to my knowledge, I don't think has any rules implications inside the entirety of World Eaters. Maybe there's something in there that I'm not remembering. But I don't believe that there's like anything that cares about being a demon. It's just that having, oops, sorry, chat. Just that having demon vehicle lets you benefit from the stratagems and stuff, which is neat. So being able to like upgrade your guy to be a demon vehicle means that even if he's not a like Mauler Fiend or a Forge Friend, then you can still use the strats on him. The other things we can do for Terminators is give them +1 OC with an upgrade, which is fine, I guess, but I don't know necessarily if that's where we're going. The other one is +1 weapon scale, which is fucking awesome. That's great. We love that. We have a 1 command point stratagem to get +1 attack. We have a 1 command point stratagem to get +1 a wound against monsters and vehicles, so we can clear high volume units and clear big toughness units. And then we have -1 damage against range attacks for 2 command points, which is quite a bit. We do have command point cost reduction inside the what's the word? The faction as well from the Demon Princes. So 2 command points isn't like out of the realm possibility. The interesting thing is exactly how much damage we're getting out of Chaos Terminators, because the thing to consider is that we don't get this alongside Berserker Warband, so we're stuck at our like base characteristics plus obviously like access to like +1 attack and then obviously Blessings of Corn. But I don't know if there's like a good delivery system for them. What's funny is like we could take Vessels of Wrath and select all of our Terminator champions, and then they get 4 Blessings of Corn. They get the Blessing of Wrath keyword, you select a Blessing of Corn that's not active for them, and then you get the 2 Blessings of Corn from your normal army roll, and then you charge and you activate the 4th Blessing of Corn. And just get all of them. Which could be funny, I guess. But it feels, I don't know if that necessarily feels like we're really like making efficient use of our detachments here. Yeah. I know that like Corn Terminators is like an archetype, but I think it relies so heavily on Berserker Warband to buff all of the melee attacks, because they do have a lot of melee attacks. And not getting access to that alongside this definitely makes this feel much worse. So I don't really know where we're going with this, honestly. I don't know. It kind of feels like we're just locked into the Berserker Warband play pattern, to be honest. I'm not sure what we're doing here. I don't know. Oh, excuse me, Chad. Vessels of Wrath got rewritten, so we don't even have old Vessels of Wrath anymore. It's just character units get bonuses. Poopy. That's poopy. Yeah, so where like what are we comboing these with, I guess is the open question. There's like something funny with Cult of Blood and the Brazen Engines, because it affects Titanic units, which is the Lord of Skulls, which is also a demon vehicle. So you could like, you can find buffs for your Lord of Skulls off while taking this, but are we that interested in taking Lords of Skulls? I guess maybe the character detachment's good. Let's talk about the character detachment before we go too far. So Vassals of Wrath gives non-epic hero character units cleave 1 or +1 AP, so you can go to AP 3 and get Demon Prince's mobile +1 to charge. And you have an enhancement for once per game to get all of the Blessings of Corn. You have a 4+ final pen against mortal wounds for character unit. Character models get +1 attack, +2 strength. And punish the Craven. When an enemy makes a fallback move, they have to desperate escaping it from the character unit. They printed that so many times. I don't know how often that's going to be helpful, to be honest. Unless you're like super low on wounds and there's a chance you could die. And they would just want to kill you. So maybe what we could do, because I know that like the primary play pattern for this detachment is you take a bunch of the demon princes, and then the demon princes can project the 4+ invuln save on a bunch of jackals. And so while we are doing that, we can also be buffing the demon princes. That might be something. I don't know. I believe that it's once per game you can project the big 4+ invuln save, and then there is a 2 command point stratagem that you use once per game to get it on one guy a second time. So we can get 2 rounds of 4+ invuln save on a billion jackals is like the silly thing what we do. And then if the idea is that we're taking 3 or 4 demon princes to project that aura, the demon princes getting a buff from like Vessels of Wrath here actually might be okay. So that could be fun. I don't know. Vessels with Possessed will combo nicely with the Possessed Slaughter Band. It gives you surge moves. It's a little bit weird because it's like surge moves on units that aren't necessarily like crazy survivable, right? So I guess we can look at real quick at the updates. I imagine that they've updated some of these to be to the new nomenclature. Possessed Slaughter Band now says, "Oh, they didn't change anything." I'm gonna crash out, chat. So, Possessed Slaughter Band is when you lose a model from your unit, you make a Brazen Fury move. To do so, roll a d6. The models in this unit move a number of inches up to this result, but this unit must end as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. So it's a surge move that doesn't use the surge move mechanics. Because they didn't. Oh no, it's sorry. Excuse me, chat. Excuse me, chat. It's on the next line. No, okay. They did call it a surge move. All right. I thought that they were just doing stratagems and they had not changed the ability, but I didn't say they changed the ability in a different section. But that's okay. All right. That would have been super weird if it was just the one move, like surge move of the game that didn't work like all the other ones. But like with the amount of like weird like idiosyncrasies we've been finding in these rules so far, that would not be the first time. Blessings of Corn, Unbridled Bloodlust, which is a charge reroll, just gives you +1 to charge now. I'm gonna fact check myself on that. I don't remember what all the names of the things are. If we go and look at World Eaters, Blessings of Corn, Unbridled Bloodlust is previously reroll charge rolls. Excuse me, chat. Oh, there we go. But now it is +1. I wonder where that becomes mechanically stronger. Like +1 charge is good, but reroll is very good. So, I don't know about that. I think it's like it must be in shorter charges. Like you can't, if you have that active, you can't fail double ones. And I guess going from like a 7 to a 6, it's good, but it's definitely worse. But I guess the thing is that like you can get +1 to charge, and you can also command reroll the charge roll. So theoretically, the charge is more consistent. It just costs you more. But that is a pretty big statistical change for sure. Slaughterbound can bring his friends back even if they're all dead. There is an implication that you can't do that. And I don't know how to like analyze healing effects, because we don't actually know how healing effects with attached units work. Because there are rules that imply that once a bodyguard unit is destroyed, it cannot be regenerated. But I don't know if that's the case, because we don't have the fucking rules addendum, which has apparently all these mechanics in it. Thanks, G-Dub. You're the best. Corn Demonkin summoned by Slaughter, and the last one is destroyed before removing it from play. Bloodletter unit from your army is in reserves. You can set up anywhere on the battlefield within 9 inches of the destroyed model, more than 6 inches away horizontally from all enemy units. Then remove the destroyed model from play. There's some weirdness with this, and people were calling this out in regards to some other units. But if you have out of phase ingress, I guess this isn't an ingress move, it's a setup, which I guess is good. But ingress moves explicitly, so I don't know necessarily if this affects you, and I don't think it probably doesn't. But ingress moves explicitly prevent you from charging until the start of the next fight charge phase. So if you have an effect that ingresses you during the fight phase, you lock into place. You don't go anywhere, which is very strange. But I don't think the implication is that this is just a setup effect. This is not a movement, so I don't think that counts. But there are some other data sheets that matters for, and it's probably an oversight, unfortunately. But it's another thing that will probably need to get changed. So I'm not sure why they wouldn't say that you can't move until the end of the turn, but I don't know. Which rules imply that? There's a rule in the Necron faction pack, I think, that we looked at yesterday, that talks about reanimating bodyguard models. And there's like a thing that says that like once a bodyguard unit is destroyed, I have to look back at it. If I could find Necrons, here it is. It's in the FAQ section of the Necron faction pack. So it's like if I use out of phase abilities to reactivate reanimation protocol, do rules that activate reanimation protocols only apply to a bodyguard unit whose attached leader is on the battlefield if one or more models from the bodyguard unit are also on the battlefield? The answer is yes. So the implication being that I can't, out of sequence, I guess, activate reanimation protocols. But like I don't know why there would necessarily be a difference between activating reanimation protocols normally and out of phase. Probably an addendum thing, I guess. I don't know. But basically, like, the idea is that you could only activate reanimation protocols if you have bodyguard models remaining. So if your leader's alive, but your unit's not, you don't get to do like ghost arc activation stuff on them. I don't actually know how that works though. Like, I don't know why that rule exists. There's also like the ever-present rumor that there will be an addendum that talks about how if a bodyguard model, if a leader is on the battlefield but his bodyguard is destroyed, you will not be able to reanimate back to him, because obviously there's problems there. But I think that it might explicitly revolve around having your unit, the entire unit, be destroyed and then regenerating. So, but I don't know for that for sure. So like if I have an effect that regenerates my character and the unit plus the character is killed, and then the character comes back, his bodyguard unit remains killed forever. That would obviously be different. Except that Necron FAQ is bizarre and I don't understand. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. Who knows? We're just going to have to wait for the stupid addendum. I feel like everything we talk about today is just going to be like, I don't know how this works. We have to wait for an addendum, which just sucks. It's like, it's the biggest case of blue balls. I don't know, man. It's rough. Let's see. Chaos Terminator's Blood Fury ability. When you declare a charge, you can use this part of the ability to reroll the charge roll. However, you must end the charge move engaged the closest charge target. That's how they've been changing a lot of their +2 to charge or reroll charge against the specific unit, which I think is neat. They changed a bunch of stuff to be blood surge moves, which is cool. Hellbrute, Frenzy ability. Once per turn! When an enemy unit targets this unit after the unit has resolved its attacks, you can use this ability. You're eligible to fight unit. And must be selected next. Oh, you just interrupt. Oh, you don't interrupt. You interrupt even if it's already fought. So you have to... You basically have to be fighting first. Otherwise, it just gives you interrupt for free. Which is kind of how we thought it works in 10th edition for a while. Because there was a rule that said, like, if you had already fought, you were not eligible to be selected to fight. So if you, like, get interrupted on with a Hellbrute, and then the Hellbrute reactive fights, he doesn't fight normally because he just has already fought. That's kind of how it works here. Where it's like, if the Hellbrute gets charged and gets punched, he punches back, and then because he's already been selected to fight, we just move on. He doesn't fight again. However, if he punches you first and then you punch him back, he'll punch you a second time, which is really weird. So it's like this ability is much better on his turn. Otherwise, it's just like a free interrupt on his own stuff. And in some cases, that can actually fuck you, because if you force him to fight during the fight first step, then you can actually change the activation order for the next step. So if like you charge him and you punch him and then he punches you, and then you go to fight normal, the active player fights normal instead of the inactive player, which is actually kind of weird. So Hellbrute stonks way down, unfortunately. Although, because you don't pile in every time you fight, I guess unless you constantly overrun fight, it was probably a little bit tougher to get him into combat anyway. But I guess maybe the idea is that they don't want to open up the potential for like an unlimited number of overrun fights, which could be really annoying. The Slaughterbound's strength was changed to 10? Is that new? No? Interesting. Huh. I don't remember that, but I don't remember that being an errata, I guess is what I mean. That's interesting. Mauler Fiend. Scent of Blood. You get +1 to charge if you're within 9 inches of a unit below starting strength, +2 if they're below half strength. But it's interesting that doesn't require you to charge any of those targets, which is interesting. At least this ability makes sense, or this FAQ makes sense now. There's this weird interaction that happened when the Codex came out where you couldn't choose a Blood Legion unit as your warlord, except that there was an upgrade that made a character into a Blood Legion character. However, like, you could basically select him like prior to upgrading him effectively, which would allow you to like circumvent the restriction for that one guy if you took the enhancement. And they were like, no, you can't do that. But I was like, why? There was no rules that prevented you from doing that. But nowadays, because you basically do all that stuff at the same time, it does make sense. Anyway, I don't know what to think about World Eaters. We have to wait for the addendum, chat, before we get to know what any of these factions actually do. Should we talk about Emperor's Children, another faction for which we'll have to wait for an addendum before we actually know what they do? Let's go. Emperor's Children got coterie of the Conceit that has 3 detachment points, which means I think it's dead, because Peerless Bladesman and Carnival of Excess are right fucking there, dude. And we can play them with a second detachment. I guess I don't know if it's necessarily dead. Let's talk about what the detachments actually do. I think I'm a little excited for some build variety in Emperor's Children, because this faction has been kind of like much maligned. Oh god. Please open my document. There we go. Simply because of the fact that it basically only ever had one build. I would love for it to be a little bit more interesting. So let's go. So a couple of sort of normal updates to things to make things from 8 to 9 inches, make heroic intervention cost -1 rather than free. Normal attacks we see. Why do they? There's this weird typo, this move engaged typo, and I think they copy pasted the typo onto like 5 different factions. But wait, this one, this one's fine. That's so stupid. How do they miss one version of that typo but not the other one? Refusal to be outdone inside slash is chosen. Roll charges, and you must remain engaged within an emperor's children. Oh, just an enemy unit. It's weird. Okay. Search moves, rapid evisceration, does stuff. Mechanized murder, did that change? It is a roll hit and wound rolls of 1 if you are transported to spark transport. That must be an old FAQ. The Helldrake nerfs stick around, which says sad. They accidentally misprinted the Helldrake as being like dramatically harder to kill than it was, which is always
Beyond
sad.
6,931 donated $5 through Super Chat. Can I change my list request to a Builder Tortoise list?
Absolutely.
All 3 1 pointers in one list.
Absolutely. You can, we can play all 3 1 point and 1,000 stats in one list. Unfortunately, I'm streaming this and next week, but hopefully, well, we'll see about the week after. I'm currently in conversation with an event that I had on the calendar for ages, and now they're like balking and getting me out to stream, which is really annoying. But theoretically, I'm streaming in the next like month or so, which does make it tough for me to get up and to stream normal gameplay. But the next time we play, we could play some funny Thousand Suns detachments. All right, this stuff didn't really change. So what we can do is go through the new detachments for them, which I think is going to be awesome because that Emperor's Children have like a glut, a gamut of interesting kind of B tier detachments. Elegant Brutes gives you +1 to charge Terminator units that set up. The Terminator units, unfortunately, are still kind of trash though. So this is probably not a particularly playable detachment from the get go. It's just a unit that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like designed poorly, unfortunately. What's up, Kitty Cat? Yeah, you're very loud. I know. You can give Lord Cacophonous Deep Strike. Gives its units to ignore cover, which is okay. But the weird part is that they like shoot at something to give themselves charger rolls, but they've already shot the thing. So either it's dead or it removes casualties, so their charge is harder. I guess did they change? They must have changed the Terminator datasheet ability, right? Maybe they did. Cast Terminators. Let's take a peek. In your shooting phase, after you need a shot, you want to here. Kitty cat, you're so loud. Oh, what's up, kitty? Do you want to go onto this cat tree that I got for you? There you go. She's just very barely off camera. There she is. Look at my cat. She's so cute. So the Chaos Terminator ability. After it is shot, you select an enemy unit hit by all of its ranged attacks. Hit by those ranged attacks. Oh, is it different? Did they change it so it doesn't have to shoot you with everything? That was always the issue, my issue with it. Maybe it's fine, actually. Let's take a peek at how it's currently worded. I would be much more interested to play the Emperor's Children Terminator unit if they can split their attacks. So currently it says, each time the unit is selected to shoot, if it makes 1 or more ranged attacks, all of those attacks are to the same enemy unit. After this unit has shot, you can use this ability if you do select one enemy hit by those ranged attacks. It doesn't. It's not one or more. How is this supposed to work? It must be that you can split now, right? Why would they have changed this otherwise? Yeah, it's gotta be you can split. It's just weird that it's like it's not. It's hit by those ranged attacks. So if like if I shoot and I shoot 20 times, but I only hit 19, have I not hit with all my ranged attacks? Because I don't get the buff. It has to be that you're supposed to be able to split fire. What a bizarre wording. Why would they not say one or more of those ranged attacks? Isn't that the wording for every other version of this ability? Why is it worse? Why do they say that? That's super fine. That's super weird. All right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're going to assume that you can split and get this effect. You just have to then charge a thing that you shot at, which is great. That was my big issue with this unit, because this unit wanted to shoot a million times. Like, you're paying out the nose for, well, not necessarily out the nose. They're kind of efficient, to be honest. But you are paying for having guns and Reaper autocannons and things. But the requirement that you fired all of your guns at one target and then, like, blasted it, and then you didn't, and then you're like, you get charger rolls against it, but you've already killed them or, like, pulled the first couple casualties, was very stupid. But now you can make 8-inch charges with a reroll out of reserve, and all you have to do is shoot one Stormbolter at the target, which actually feels very good. I think that's pretty fine. That's actually not too bad. And then, like, you can play Peerless Bladesman. You could do Rapid Ingress stuff. I actually really like that a lot. Plus, you get uppy downies for them. I'm in. I mean, the 5s is, like, okay, right? I guess, like, they probably don't want to do 10s because it makes Thrill Seekers very efficient. Like, having low unit count, low entity count, like big punchy things is very spooky for like for the power level. Just being able to advance, fall back, and shoot those into whatever is a big deal. She's just hung over the edge with her paws out in front. That's so funny. So I think it's probably that they wanted to downplay how strong the individual units are, so that you take like more smaller units of them, so that the army ability is actually a legitimate thing. Is this thing a little bit? I put this bed on there so that she would try to get onto it, but I think it's a little unstable. How you're charging on 8s out of reserve? Because you get +1 to charge. So feels pretty straightforward. Yeah, so this feels fine. You can get sustained hits 1 on all their attacks, which is pretty cool. And then you can like take a Peerless Bladesman or something and to get lethal hits as well. Yeah, I don't know. The other thing too is that unless they change them, the current coins value of Chaos Terminators and Emperor's Children is very low. Because there's like such a dumpster fire of a data sheet, they've always been costed at, what do they end up being? Like 29 points, right? I think that's correct. So like sub 30 points for a Terminator body. That punches pretty good and gets a bunch of buffs from the detachment ability. So you could pay 500 points and you get 15 Terminators that have like a bunch of sort of overlapping buffs available to them. I'm not going to say that I think that's the best thing ever, but this does make Terminators feel significantly more interesting as an additional kind of beatstick unit than they had previously. So I do like that quite a bit. If you use their ability, they must end engage range of all units they shot. Oh, is that how it is? Oh, maybe it is bad. Let's go back. Where were we? The Terminator update? No, chat. No. You select one enemy unit. One, not all of them. Pick one, reroll charge. You just have to engage the one you picked. So what you do is you drop the Terminators in. You shoot all your guns at somebody far away, and then you shoot one Stormbolter at a guy in front of you, and maybe you kill a model. And then you go, I'm going to pick that guy that I shot the Stormbolter at, and then you get charger rolls +1 to charge, and boop, you go in there. Almost maybe had a heart attack. I thought I got the rule wrong. No, I think it's actually, I don't want to say it's like great. Like the payoff is that like you get a Terminator unit in melee. Okay, cool, man. But I think it's more interesting. It's much more interesting to play these guys than previously. As long as the implication is correct that you can split your fire and get the buff. Because the problem was always that they had to make all their attacks and they had to shoot one thing. So I don't know. It definitely feels like is how it goes, but I don't know if that's the case. Frenzied Host. Emperor's Children battle line, when they're selected to make a advance or fallback move, all of its attacks get +1 strength. All of its attacks, including guns, which is kind of crazy. You can get Euphoric Crown, which gives Lord Exultant +1 strength. You can give Howling Plate, which gives their ranged attacks +1 AP, which is whatever. I don't know if I care about that, but all right. It is units ranged attack, so you can get all your bolters to +1 AP, but I don't know how often. If we're playing Infractors, when we're now disincentivized from shooting on the way in, and if we're playing Tormentors, I don't know if we're really that excited about playing a Lord Exultant. So, like, nowadays, what you want to do is just play Infractors and not shoot them, because you lose out on like the 5 lethal hit gunshots. So, but if you don't need to kill a bunch of infantry, you lose hidden if you shoot your guns. However, you can retain hidden just by charging. So if you charge onto an objective, and then objective move into it, you get the 15-inch like lone operative effect, which is great. So a lot of times I think these guys are going to be just running out and charging at people, but not necessarily shooting their guns. So +1 AP and range with shooting attacks, who cares? Who cares about that? We get Possessive Mania. You can get an Emperor or an Armor of Contempt effect until the enemy unit has attacks. We love that. Agonized Cacophony. Select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches. The enemy unit has -6 or +6 inches of detection range. Pretty good if we're playing Defilers or they're gone to ground and we have Noise Marines, I guess. That's pretty good. Absolute Sensory Overload. You can shoot and remain hidden, which I guess is a little fine, but again, if we're just doing that with like Infractors, I don't know if it matters that much. Or Tormentors, excuse me. A lot of times when you're shooting Tormentors, you're not doing like long range shots. Like these effects on like a sniper unit, right? If you get this on like Tau Pathfinders or something and you're shooting from 30 inches away, that does make sense. But Tormentors usually are firing Melta-guns within 6 inches of you, so getting like remaining hidden on those things is not usually that helpful. But the other effects here are great. Being able to push a Lord Exultant to +2 strength, so he goes to 10, right? Or he starts at 7, he goes to 9 potentially. Yeah. 9 with Lance. That's kind of a bit. That's a pretty solid breakpoint. That means I guess like base strength 9. He could wound things on 2s even without Lance. Oh, excuse me. Woo. And then he also can wound like T9 light vehicles and stuff on 3s or 2s. T8 or 9, somewhere in there, which is relevant breakpoints. I do like the idea of playing this alongside Peerless Bladesman, because you get sustain plus lethal on all of these attacks, and another guy can get disruption, who's like just low-key, or distortion, excuse me, which is just basically low-key the best melee buff for Lord Exultants. And I believe this also has the additional effect nowadays of giving bonus attacks to the whip, because if I remember correctly, the addenda or the clause that prevents the attack characteristic of an extra attack weapon from being modified is gone, which means you can push the whip to 5 attacks. And then it also pushes it to 2 damage. His spear goes to 3 damage. and his spear gets +1 strength from the detachment ability. So he goes to base strength 8, which is awesome. So this seems sweet. Court of the Phoenician, I think. Yeah, you can also do that. That seems pretty good. You can stack +2 strength +1 AP. Remember when this like was affected permanently? It was so bad. I don't know why they keep having trouble like writing Emperor's Children rules. It's so weird. That was on a release, Court of the Phoenician said that like if it didn't have a statute of limitations on the like charge restriction, it was just if the unit had been targeted by if the unit you were charging had been targeted by a charge at any point previously in the game, you would not get the bonus. So like the first unit that you charged with something got the bonus against it, and then no one else ever did. It was very weird. Our last one seems good. Spectacle of Slaughter. Flawless Blade units get fight first. They made a big deal about this in the preview video, but obviously fight first, kind of whatever. Who cares about that? However, you can upgrade Flawless Blades to get +2 movement. You can upgrade Flawless Blades to get Ignore Overwatch. Although I've been finding that, and some people made this comment when the rule book first came out, where they were like, we're going to be able to dodge Overwatch with hidden. And I was like, can you? Because like, if you're charging someone, they're still going to be able to Overwatch. But the big thing is that a lot of longer range Overwatch threats are behind the unit you're going to charge. In many cases, you can remain hidden in a terrain feature just outside of their Overwatch range and then charge into something in front of them. And I've actually found that play pattern exists a lot of different ways. And so I've been finding that like, especially small infantry units don't necessarily need anti-Overwatch mechanics, because a lot of times the models that could be targeted by Overwatch, you can keep in hidden, and they just won't be able to be shot. And Flawless Blades with no range attacks are always hidden if they're in terrain. So it's really easy to unlock that ability. We can give them precision on the entire unit for 1 command point. We can give them move through models, excluding monsters and vehicles, which is that ability is never that great. I'll be honest. Let's be real. Sometimes it'll come up and it'll be okay. And then Intoxicated by Triumph is an enemy unit falls back from you and you are unengaged. You can move D3 +3. This one's, I think, a bit of a miss. +2 movement on Flawless Blades is awesome, but it will cost you points. And then the other stuff is like fine, but you probably miss it. This is definitely, though, if we are taking a 1 detachment point detachment, it's definitely Frenzied Host, and it's definitely with something like Court or something like Carnival or something like Peerless Bladesman, where you can just compound all of these overlapping buffs, right? Because Carnival can give you sustained hits and faster movement. Court of the Phoenician can give you additional strength characteristics, and Peerless Bladesman gives you either sustained or lethal. So being able to stack all of those offensive buffs together is awesome. There's also the fact that I wonder if the Coterie of the Conceited play pattern is going to be that helpful in this edition, for the sole reason that a lot of primary missions score kind of passive points by destroying enemy units. Which means that if Coterie is doing their normal play pattern of sending out 1 unit at a time to slowly but surely increase their pledge count, your opponent can also farm those units for points. So I get pledge points, but you get actual primary for them, and which means that like the thing that normally happens where Coterie can like keep you pinned and then sort of slowly send out their Lord of Exaltants, and then once you get to the late game, you like late game really hard with Defilers and Noise Marines and the characters or whatever. You'll be able to do that, but you'll be doing that with like such a primary deficit that I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. I don't know if it like totally changes the dynamic of the entire faction or the detachment, but it definitely disincentivizes you from playing in that way where you like kind of throw your army away in little drips and drabs, because doing that just can score a million points against you. So being able to play the much more sort of restrained versions of Emperor's Children, where you can play your units farther back and you don't have this pressure to continuously deal damage, means that you can hold for like the times where you get positive secondary draws and you're able to actually attack your opponent rather than feeling that you're forced to do so every turn. And it's interesting, we always comment on it because like the playing something like, you know, Court of the Phoenician or something versus playing Coterie is so different. Even though you use all the same units, the play pattern is entirely on its head because you can just threaten while not necessarily having to actually engage, which is awesome. You also get really, really strong early game damage out of like non-attached infractor units. Because we could potentially push our guys to like strength six strength six precision like melee attacks, which is crazy. If we're just running into opposing utility, our utility is going to kill them, and you don't do that in Coterie until you're like pretty far down the pledge track, which means you need Lord Exultants to start the fight, whereas the other detachments could just start them with infractor units, and you could use the Lord Exultants to actually slingshot into things or to like punch big vehicles and stuff, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, I think that's sweet. Coterie is purge, so killing also wins primary. I know that there are some. I have to look through the purge missions. I guess we could do that real quick while we're here. Because it's like you have to kill units in specific positions, right? So there's counterplay to it. Can destroy an enemy unit. It becomes a consecration unit. This objective feels a little bit weird. Because you destroy an enemy unit and then your unit like gains the consecrate keyword, and then all you have to do is run to a different objectives, and then you get 1,000,000 points. This one I feel like may change actually. Destroyer's Wrath against priority assets is to kill one or more enemy units. Control one or more objectives. Control more objectives than your opponent into your command phase. End of your turn, one or more enemy units, more enemy units than friendly units were destroyed. And then punishment versus disruption forces you to choose enemy units and condemn them, and then you can kill them. This one is a little tough to score because it's not necessarily like all kill focused. It basically, your opponent can play around forcing you to choose condemned units that you have a tough time actually killing. And then unstoppable forces, one or more enemies were destroyed. So you do get the one, like kill one second or primary in a lot of these, but the only one that really like rewards killing a lot is this one. So I guess for the most part, you're like in parity with your opponent. And scoring 3 for them to also score 3 is, I mean, it's fine. Like you do get the value of getting the pledge points, but I don't think necessarily it's quite as valuable as it is as it has been in the past, because you're not getting ahead on primary. You're in many cases you're just remaining like you're retaining parity, right? You can regain hidden by not shooting in the previous turn. So you can go back in time and prevent yourself from shooting, and then you get to be hidden. I'm excited for Emperor's Children. I think that's going to be cool. I think that especially, I mean, the battle line detachment's like legitimately just great, and I think it's going to really reinvigorate a lot of Emperor's Children play, which is good. It has been the coterie the coterie show for a long time. Time for a new faction leader here. Rules say getting double ones is a critical failure on charges. It does not say that. It says that generally, if you roll 2 ones, you will not succeed your charge, but it doesn't say that a double ones automatically fails. To my knowledge, I guess we can double check just in case. But it is, I believe that the case is that it opened it in fucking Adobe, dude. I believe that the case is that if you have a charge bonus, you'll be able to succeed. But I will fact check myself on that momentarily. Yeah, so there's no in the absence of modifiers to the charge roll, a result of a 2 or double 1 is never sufficient to complete a charge move. So this isn't like a rule that says rolling snake eyes automatically fails your charge. It says that mathematically, if you roll snake eyes, you'll probably fail your charge because you have to start 2 inches away from people. However, if I have +1 on my charge roll, I didn't roll a 2, I rolled a 3. So it's just like it's noting to you that in most cases rolling double ones will fail. However, it's not a hard mechanic that rolling double ones automatically fails your charge. Right. So what I'm saying about the hidden thing, chat, you are disincentivized from shooting. If your plan is to charge your opponent, you're disincentivized from shooting on your way in, which is why like attack for most melee units, like jump pack intercessors or infractors or whatever, having these pistols and having bonuses to your ranged attacks is probably going to be less useful because in most cases, while you're charging, you're not going to shoot your guns. I'm not saying that once you shoot, you are permanently unhidden, but the turn where it matters, which is the turn after you charge, you probably want to have the hidden effect because you're going to charge onto an objective, like charging your opponent's expansion objective. If you're hidden when you do that, it's harder to overwatch you, and your opponent has to move closer to actually attack you with ranged attacks on the subsequent turn. So you really want that hidden effect. So shooting on your way in is very bad for you. It's not to say that shooting permanently removes hidden from you, of course. But the turn where you are likely to like go in and then die afterwards, I think it's important to keep in mind that you might not want to shoot. All right, let's talk about Death Guard. We can take a peek real quick at what our detachment points look like. It looks like Virulent Victorium is 3. And that's it. Oh, boy. Okay. Mortarian's Hammer and Champions of Contagion are both 2. And Taliban Summoners is 2. Bro, Death Guard are eating good, dude. That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. No pun intended. See if they have any changes. Nurgle's Gift. Contagion range cannot be greater than 12 inches after modifiers. That is a big deal, because one of them do 1-point detachments just increases your contagion range. So you can't... I think we had talked about that potentially stacking really well with the Lord of Poxes and you getting like an absolutely prodigious contagion range aura. That's a big deal. You can't do that anymore. And then Skullsquirm Blight has been changed to subtract 1 to the hit roll when you make a melee attack, not just -1 to hit, period. Oh, I guess so. I think this is almost certainly because you could stack it with the cut with cover, right? That was like 100% the case, where they were like, if all I do is I play the detachments where I can push my contagion range, and then I just blast contagion up the middle of the table and put my guys in cover, everyone's hitting on no better than 4s. And I guarantee you that's why they changed that. I absolutely guarantee you. Especially because Death Guard don't have an insignificant number of things that give stealth, right? There's a couple of different ways to do that. Fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. They kept the FAQ to Typhus's ability, even though they don't need to anymore. Because lone operative says you're not visible if you're not within the lone operative range. So that's awkward. Death Shot Terminator's thing is still 6 inches. And yeah, the other stuff is different. It's not different. Big change to death shots? Is there? Oh, can you ingress with it? That's definitely the implication. What does it currently say? It currently says in your movement phase when you arrive using Deep Strike. Now it says each time. Yeah, so you could rapid ingress 6 inches. That's honestly, I think that's kind of necessary. It feels weird to be like, you know what, they should buff dash round Terminators. But so many times, whether or not you won with fucking with Death Shroud, with Death Guard, was contingent on making all your 6-inch charges with Death Shroud Terminators. And if you just deep struck all of them 6 inches away, and then you failed all your 6s, you lost on the spot. It was like fucking terrible. But now that these become 7-inch charges, and in general, it becomes more difficult if you want to like ingress into a reasonable spot to move forward and make the charge to something relevant. I think they kind of need the buff. It's like pretty weird. But I think being able to rapid ingress 6 definitely keeps that unit competitive, because I do think that like giving them a semi-permanent -1 to charge would be really bad. All right, let's talk about what we got going on. First things first, contagion engines. I would love to be able to prognosticate about what we can combo this with, but apparently they may tag other detachments, so who fucking knows how good these detachments are. We love that. I love just not having complete information. Super fun and cool. Warped and Rusted Animus gives Fetid Bloat Drone, HBL Bloat Drone, and Hellbrute and Blight Hauler units Contagion Engine. That gives them Assault. Not too bad. Parasitic Woe Reaper gives D3 heal when each time you fight, which is cool. It is one model in the unit. Important to note. You can't regenerate models with that. Good to know. And then a friendly Hellblute or Myphitic Blightholler unit can get mobile, which is sick. That's cool. Especially because you can have up to 2 Myphitic Blighthollers in single units, right? So being able to push 2 guys through a wall is kind of sweet. Although it's not as good as it was last edition. I will say it does feel like vehicles have a much easier time maneuvering around train features. But I don't know. I guess like Hellbrutes being able to do it so they can get a melee is not too bad. So we'll see. I do think there is the capacity for this to be really good. The heal D3 on something like a Flesh Mower guy or a Plague Spewer guy. It does need to be kind of inexpensive to be good, because in a lot of cases your opponent's just going to like dump big shots into them and kill them anyway, so you're not going to get the benefit. But there are some matchups where your opponent has a tough time like one tapping these vehicles, and them just being able to heal potentially 2d3 per round is a huge deal. Like if they're just engaging 5 Space Marine scouts, they're going to take like 1 damage, heal it, and then go to the next round of combat, take 1 damage, heal it, keep punching and keep contesting the objective, which is awesome. It does require that you live though, which is obviously a little bit tough these days. However, the It is easier to kill stuff, but having the new cover rolls plus an invulnerable save are actually pretty helpful. So having these units that have 5+ invulns, I think, is much more valuable than it was in 10th edition. Fresh Vectors gives contagion range, or contagion engines reroll wounds of 1. Pretty good. Although it doesn't stack with any other offensive buffs from stratagems, so I don't know how far you can push that. You could put it on a Blight Hauler that's like +1 to hit and wound. Probably something there. You're wounding on 3s or 4s, rerolling 1s, which is not too bad. Blood Rust Deluge gives in your shooting phase, when a friendly contagion engine is selected to shoot, select one visible enemy unit. The enemy unit is afflicted until your unit is attacked, so it permanently afflicts, or it afflicts something for the duration of your attacks. So you can get like +1 AP and get the benefit of minus from toughness. I think you also get the Hellbrute gets his like +1 to wound against afflicted enemies, right? So that works on him too. 1 command point for that is a lot. It feels like a lot, but we'll see. Soul Rot Flux. When your opponent makes a fallback move, you can do damage to them. Neat. Flyblown Host is now a 1 detachment point detachment. It gives Plague Marine units infiltrators. It has the Flyblown tag and cannot be taken with another Flyblown detachment. Oh, what detachments would be Flyblown, do you think? I don't know. I guess Virulent Victoria, maybe? but then it's 3 detachment points. You can't stack them anyway. In Strike Force, anyway. Weird. I don't know what the tag here would prevent them from doing. Insectile Murmuration. When you target an enemy unit within contagion range of a friendly unit, those attacks reroll wound rolls of 1. Pretty good for Plague Marine Squad. It also affects their attached characters. Potentially, there's an implication, maybe, or I guess like, we don't really. It's another thing we don't really know how it works, but there's some sort of interaction between characters and upgrade enhancements, and we're not sure what it is yet. There's like an implication. It was implied in one article somewhere that characters can't have upgrades and can't go into units with upgrades, but I don't think that's correct. So we're not actually sure how that works. These are kind of like Necrons, dramatically worse if you can't have characters benefit from upgrade abilities. So we'll see.
At Letters from Links donated 20 Swedish krona through Super Chat. Tags for older detachments is coming in the MFN.
Yes, indeed, chat. We had that whole discussion. Yes. Plague Veil gives -3 detection range, which is neat. So cool. Each attached unit can have a total of 1 enhancement or upgrade. That was, from what I understood, that was how it worked. But there was an article that said that upgrades could be applied to non-character units, which, because that always all happens in the muster army step, implies as well that you cannot have a character attached to a unit with an upgrade, right? Depending on the order in which those effects are resolved, right? Because if you attach your characters first and then select your upgrade so that you don't duplicate, you would not be able to put a character into a unit with an upgrade. But if you do the other way around, it's fine, I guess. But again, it's like a rule we don't know, so I have no idea. I don't know how it will work. They did write all these conflicting rules, yeah. But then they had one. Somebody posted in my Discord. There was one article that listed an upgrade for a character unit, which I understood to be not how it worked at all. Which obviously could be a typo because they only showcased a single one of them. But we'll know for sure tomorrow if that is actually correct. So I don't know. We just have to see the rules. Well, the problem is that, like, for Necrons and for Death Guard, attachment mechanics are so vital. So it's really difficult to judge these detachments in absence of that knowledge, which is awkward. Because like you can't have multiple characters attached to these units and stuff. I don't know. Tomorrow is Imperium faction stuff. I believe the one previewed character upgrade was an Astromilitarum one. And so if that was a typo, then we'll know because it just won't be there. So there you go. Plague Marines can get reroll once they hit and wound. I have the Swarm, can give them close quarters. Neat. I mean, I think this is good. Obviously, Champions of Contagion is like all about, you know, character attaching into Plague Marine units, assuming that you can get all of these buffs together. It doesn't seem to me that. Oh, just kidding. It does seem to be. You can definitely apply Infiltrator to Plague Marine units that have attached characters because it happens in the declare battle formation step, not muster armies. So you could put things like your, Biologus Putrefier and Plaguecaster guys in the middle of the table, which is kind of good. Although usually you want them in Rhinos, so I don't know how good that is. But just having generic bonuses for these units is not too bad. So that feels pretty solid to me. I mean, Contagion Engine is also good because most armies have 2 heavy blade launcher Bloatrones. So I guess it's a pretty tight, competition here so far. Minotaur Field Manual on Friday. Oh man, could you imagine? I'll be streaming ACO, which will be great. Which will, if that comes out at the same time as streaming ACO, it's gonna be a nightmare. But that'll be interesting. Can we look at which character units get support? No, we cannot. I don't think they changed any of them. Which so there have been units, and let's take a peek at the Plague Marine squads. Orc Boys is the example of this right now, where they don't change their leader mechanics. They just say you can have more leaders than normal. And I don't know if that's the case for something like Plague Marine. So if we look at like Malignant Plague Casters datasheet. Oh, I don't know where the ability exists. This is the perennial issue with all the stupid leader mechanics of the current edition. I don't know where the ability exists where they can dual attach to units. If I knew where that was, I could look at it and see if it still matters. But I can't find it, so we're just gonna move on. We're gonna assume it works currently. The Plaguecaster doesn't have a dual attach clause? But wait, how did you dual attach with him previously? What? What the fuck? Oh, is it on the Biologus Putrefier? Am I just looking at the wrong guy? Oh, it is on the Biologus Putrefier. All right. See, this is my issue. These are impossible. These are fucking so stupid. There are 3 entities involved, and which unit has the ability that lets you dual attach is random. Sometimes it's on the leader character. Sometimes it's on the other character. Sometimes it's on the bodyguard unit. Sometimes it's somewhere else in a war gear upgrade. It's fucking it's dumb. You can attach this model to a Plague Marine unit even if one other leader has already attached to it. Easy. So you're good. So they don't actually need to use support mechanics, basically. Which begs the question, why do we have the support ability? What is the purpose of support if everything that lets you dual attach just says you could attach multiple leaders, which is just the same thing as support? Oh my god. This is this is so stupid. The leader and support change is a nice one. Is it? Where? Show me where it makes a difference. Because I can't find it yet. Like, basically, every single unit that dual attaches just says use the normal leader rules, but you get more than one. So, like, what are we doing here? I don't know. What a waste of everyone's time. Anyway, chat. We'll talk about the last attachment. Paragons and Putrescent. Speaking of character units, so it looks to me like all the dual attach mechanics for Plague Marines still remain the same. How they work with enhancements and upgrades, we'll see, I'm sure, later next week or something. Which will be great. Speaking of those character units, we have plus 3 inches of contagion range if we take this detachment, which is awesome. It does cap at a maximum of 12, which does feel is just the entire cap totally, which is good.
Edriong 6931 donated $5 through Super Chat. And says they didn't add in support to data sheets yet. They didn't replace the old wording on any faction.
Right. So they're gonna have to go through and like redesign how multi-attachments work for future releases, which would be unnecessary if they just kept the existing mechanic, or they like streamline the existing mechanic. It's, I don't know, it's just weird. It's the thing that happens every time they release a new edition with new mechanics, but don't change the data sheets. Is like we get these bizarre. Like, what's going to happen is that we're going to have effects that pay off of leader and support characters, and we're going to have some units that they don't have support characters, they have double leader characters, and they won't actually mesh correctly, and there'll be, like, mechanical issues with that. It's just, I'm calling it now. And it happens every time they do an edition transition like this, and it's stupid. It's just dumb. And then next edition we'll get new data sheets, and it won't matter anyway, so... It is what it is. Who knows, chat? I don't know. Whatever. Let's talk about some other stuff.
At Bonesaurus 3D 926 donated $5 through Super Chat. Leader and support makes a big difference in Black Templars. Castellans and their rerolls getting more flexibility specifically.
Leader and support makes a big difference in Black Templars. Did Black Templars get changed? Actually, I guess I don't know that. We'll take a peek. The Castellan and Crusade Ancient. So the idea being that the Castellan can now dual attach with different characters, not necessarily like captains. That makes sense. I guess that is the one instance of a character that actually legitimately changed to use the new terminology, which is good. I just wish they did that with literally anyone else. So there you go. I guess an example of how the new mechanics are helpful. That's a good call out, chat. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. I want to finish talking about Death Guard because I feel like we got distracted with all the stupid rules nonsense. It's frustrating. All right. Rejuvenating Swarm gives you -1 to be wounded from stuff that has high strength. That's pretty good. And then Host of Hybridized Pox Is usable on an infantry model only. You can use the ability once per game. Select one of the plagues listed in Nurgle's gift. Enemy units in contention range of this unit also have the effect of the plague, in addition to the army's change of plague until the end of the battle. Yeah, so this detachment feels very, very extremely strong for its enhancements, just explicitly. Obviously, this can be used on like your big plague marine brick to make them much more difficult to remove. And then this is a huge bonus. It just gives you a permanent additional contagion, which is phenomenal. So you could put this on something like Lord of Contagion that will just like hop in off of Rapid Ingress now 6 inches away and then go move and charge. So you can give like -1 to be hit and +1 AP, for example, which is massive. And then this can buff your infantry squad. So when you're playing like COC or the other detachment, Mortarian's Hammer, where you oftentimes will have one like dual attached or one buffed Plague Marine unit, and then the rest of your army is built out of Death Shroud Terminators. Like this effect is kind of huge. You have a +1 OC to your unit for 1 command point in the start of either player's command phase, which is awesome. It is start of the command phase, which is weird, so it happens prior to Battle Shock, which I think is important. Gravis Spasms. Select one visible enemy unit within contagion range of your unit. The enemy has +6 detection range. Very good. Within contagion range, oftentimes will end up meaning 12 inches. It ends up being 12 inches on Battle Round 3 or onwards because you have +3 inches of contagion, so that's very easy to apply. Simultaneous contamination allows you to shoot and perform actions, which is neat. All right. Let's be done with Death Guard because we've been here for ages. We can move to Thousand Suns. Talk about some Thousand Suns. So Thousand Suns got Grand's Covenant's 3 detachment points, which I think was was spoiled at 2 by Art of War or somebody, right? And now it's apparently is 3. First of all, thank fucking God. I was like, this is a problem. Legitimate problem if this is 2 detachment points. Because that detachment's phenomenally powerful. Rubrique Phalanx also at 3, which is surprising. But not that surprising, because it's like one of the higher performant detachments for Thousand Suns. And I do think that a lot of their army is generally going to get better from like a baseline, just because of how Psychic works now, right? So judging a faction like this, and Demons is also going to be along the same lines, from the mechanics of 10th edition doesn't make any sense, because while stuff like Rubrique Phalanx is going to have some date changes with how the changes to cover, the majority of a lot of these attachments are going to do more because of the new Psychic rules, which is awesome. And also because Phalanx post regeneration would have been cancer. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely also the case. And also probably the Grand Coven and the Secretary Robo one, I think, would have been silly too. Here we go. Let's look at our datasheet updates first. Cabal of Sorcerers. I think this is probably the update from previous. Because you can't reattempt failed rituals. Destiny's Ruin. Effects Scintillating Legion. Those are, we already know about those. Ethereal Phantasm changed to from 8 to 9. Chrono Sorcerer's Bleed. Select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of your unit. At the start of your opponent's charge phase, when that enemy unit declares a charge, the enemy has -1 charge rolls. God damn. This is how all charge affecting things should work. I like this rule. Why can't all the charge roll affecting things be this? Otherwise, they don't do anything. That's so stupid. This is mostly stuff that we've already seen. I don't like that. So hover vehicles apparently are OC nil, which I don't love. If we made them into a regular vehicle, why did we take their OC away? Especially for the Helldrake. Why are we worried about the Helldrake's capacity to take objectives? That's stupid. Whatever. I think this is all stuff that we know about previously. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's move on. Got a touchstone. His little grabby claws aren't good enough. He can't grab. He can't grab good. Ritual of Regeneration is the first one. When you manifest a ritual, heal D3 wounds. We love that. Pretty good. It is a unit heals D3, so you probably can reanimate models, but again, shit we don't know about. So that's fun. We love that, dude. There a Defiler nurse in there? Unless if they change the datasheet, maybe. Let's take a peek. I didn't see it changes in any of the other Defiler datasheets. It doesn't seem like it. Yeah. I don't see any changes. Maybe I'm stupid. I could be very stupid, chat. That's certainly a possibility. Was there Hades battle cannon always AP1? I thought it was AP2, but maybe it's the other stuff. Yeah. Overwatch on 5s? No. That's always what it did. This was always its rule. This isn't new. What's up, Kitty Cat? All right. Let's talk about some of this stuff. So we can heal D3 when we manifest a ritual, which is great, especially because you could potentially ritual twice out of a single unit. Does this let you reanimate your bodyguard unit? Who fucking knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. How does this work for healing models back? I don't know. Something happens. Certainly something happens. Did it used to always be forged, the Defiler? Maybe I am stupid, chat. I was under the impression that it had not changed, but maybe I'm misremembering. No. Get out of here, chat. You're trying to gaslight me? You're trying to gaslight me. I won't fall for it. I shouldn't even looked it up. I should have just trusted my memory. Because most of the time it's right. Not all the time, but most of the time it's correct. I see how it is, chat. You're trying to make me think I don't remember the rules. All right. Oh my god. Come here, Key. She doesn't want to come up. She's so loud. What's up, kitty cat? You want to come hang out on the bed while we live stream? No. Okay, that's fine. Apologies for the interruption, folks. So we can get a respawn psyker for if you're infantry and mounted, not for demon princes, which is good. You come back with 3 wounds remaining. Pretty solid. Can you regenerate your bodyguard unit after that? I fucking hope not, but I don't know. Who knows? Curse of Life. When you heal as a result of Sorcerer's Invigoration, add 3 to the number of wounds healed. Seems great. The question is where you attach this into. The answer is probably Hex Warp Thrallband, I imagine. Because that already has good payoffs for like Terminators and stuff, which is kind of cool. Relentless Rebirth. Gives you 5+ field pending against mortal wounds, which is whatever. Mutagenic magics. Let's at the start of the fight phase, you grenade your opponent, which is good. Multitudinous limbs lets you advance, fall back, and perform an action, which is sweet. Which I love that. Senkatar cohorts gives Senkatar robots attack psychic. Friendly Thousand Suns psychers give +1 weapon skill while they're within 12 inches of them. Walking Rampart gives a sorcerer or exalted sorcerer start or end of the unit's move. You select a Secretary robot unit within 3 inches. It heals D3 +1 wounds. And then it can gain lone operative while within 3 inches of friendly Secretary robots. So it basically gets the bonus for basically becomes Tech Marine essentially, which is sweet. The nice thing here is that we could duel this up. There's no tag on this detachment, right? So we could duplicate this alongside Warp Forge Cabal, and so we could have like the lone operative guy from Warp Forge Cabal, and we could have a lone operative guy from this detachment. So we can have 2 lone operative psychers. It's pretty sweet. It is a sorcerer only though, which is important, I guess. And it does require that for lone operative to work, you do have to be unattached, or I believe the entire unit has to have the lone operative ability. So you can't like attach the psyker into a unit of rubrics and make the unit the rubrics unshootable. You have to be unshootable the normal way. I guess there's also some interest. Is Warforged 3? I thought it was just Risen Rubric A and Grand Coven. No, it's 2. Get out of here, chat. God damn it, dude. I gotta stop looking at it. I'm gonna stop double checking myself every time you guys question me on a rules thing. Then there's another thing that gives you a +1, +6. All right, whatever. Who cares? We're gonna move on. We can get Arcane Venting for Obsec, which is sick for a Secretary robot unit, especially because you can Obsec. You can infiltrate starting on an objective. I guess you don't want to do that though. There's some objectives in the new terrain layouts where you can infiltrate towing the objective, but not all the way on it, with like 1 robot and hide him, but they don't actually get hidden. So starting in objectives is not ideal. If we had other infiltrators, it would be okay, but it's a little bit tough to do. You could like scout Zangors forward to LOC the objective and then move the Secretaries to get it. But a weird part about this whole thing is that because it's end of movement phase, it requires that you. Well, I guess because it's end of movement phase, you could do it while moving onto the objective, so it's fine. If it's during movement phase, you have to have held the objective at the end of the command phase. But if it's end of movement phase, theoretically, assuming that the sequencing rules are the same as they are in previous edition, you can just recalculate level of control and then take the objective back. I think that's true. Actually, I'm gonna fact check myself on that one because I know that there are level of control rules in the core book. But I don't remember what they are. And oh my fucking god, Adobe. I need to uninstall this piece of software. It's crazy, dude. It is in... here? Yeah, just end of phase. You determine a level of control. So assuming that there's no addendum rules that say you have to calculate level of control last or something, you could, in theory... Oh, hello. Please come back. You could, in theory, move a Sekitar onto an objective and then obsec it. The reason that that's important is because the Sekitars don't get hidden. You're never going to start them in the terrain. Otherwise, they just get shot turn one and they all die. So that seems good. Ectoplasmic extrusion. You can shoot and perform actions. That's fucking sick. You do have to be within 12 inches of a Psyker, though, which is important. Warp fields gives you -1 to be wounded against attacks with a strength higher than your toughest characteristic if the Sekitar robot unit being targeted is within 12 inches of a Psyker unit. Also phenomenal. We love that. These are just great. And Sekitar robots, already good. It is important to keep in mind the changes to hidden and stuff, because that is going to be legitimately transformative to how Sekitar play, because you cannot necessarily be holding an objective and be out of line of sight anymore with a vehicle unit. Infantry can do that, but because Sekitar are vehicles, I do think it is important that they get some of these buffs. Like the psychic keyword on their guns is important, because otherwise they hit everything on 5s. It would probably be very bad. And the ability to objective secure things and stuff like that is important for a unit that cannot hide itself on objectives. So there's like some core mechanical stuff to Sekitar that does sort of impact them more than other units. This certainly offsets that, and I'm glad that the psychic payoff detachment can't be used with this in Strike Force games, which is good. We move on to Servants of Change, which is Zangor stuff. It gives Zangor's battle line. This has the mutant tag, so it could be that you can't use it alongside the other Zangor detachment, but we don't actually know because they haven't told us, which is great. We love that. In your shooting phase, friendly mutant unit is shooting. Enemy units have +6 detection range, which is good for Megalith Vortex Beasts explicitly. You can give a Shaman model the ability to unbattle shock mutants. Not once per game, just in your movement phase, which is sweet. That's actually awesome. Spawn can get +1 AP and cleave 1, which is fine, but the problem is their weapon skill 4, and that doesn't really get around the weapon skill 4 that much. Prismatic Displacement gives range attacks assaults till the end of the turn. And the unit can advance, fallback, shoot, and charge. That's sweet. Temporal Instability gives an infantry or mounted mutant unit that's selected to make an advance or fallback move. Does not prevent you from performing an action. And when monster units are selected to move, they get mobile. Honestly, so the Sekitar detachment feels incredible, right? For Sekitar robots, this might be more consistent. Fallback, shoot, and charge for infantry mounted, or for infantry or mounted mutants gives you advance and charge on Spawn or Zangors, which I guess is kind of whatever. But it also gives you advance and shoot on Zangor and Lighten squads, which is kind of huge. Also, fallback, advanced fallback perform actions, incredible on like just like Zangor units themselves, or Zangor, I guess Zangor Lightened as well. The kicker here would have been a thing to give Zangor mobile. That would have been insane. But I guess you don't necessarily need that anymore. So I kind of vibe with this, maybe more so than some of the other detachments. The way it's worded, only mutants can use these effects. You have to target mutant units. So you can't use them on anything else. I guess it doesn't work on Spawn. Excuse me. I said it worked on Spawn, but Spawn are beasts, right? So you could advance and charge Divining Spear Enlightened, which is a unit that's undervalued in terms as a melee beat stick, and especially as a disruption piece. They're like 45 points or whatever, and they're OC2 with a 2 damage lance attack and impact mortals. So if you take 6s of them, which I think is only like 70 points if I remember correctly. Let me double check my math here. Obviously there is a little bit of a downside of going around terrain features and stuff. But I do think that there's certainly a universe where you can rock these guys just as an additional 90 points, excuse me, for a 6-man. For the Divining Spear guys. But like move 10, advance and charge, and for 90 points we get 12 OC and enough melee attacks to almost certainly kill like 5 goobers on an objective. Right? You like charge an intercessor squad with these guys, and they like double their OC characteristic and just kill them on the charge. Even if you're taking 3s, the problem is that they are easy to kill and they don't hit. Like they're not consistent enough in their melee attacks that they really do that much damage. So it kind of feels like you want to take 6s if you're actually using them offensively. But there's something there. Enlightened do fly. Yeah. I mean, real talk, move 8 through terrain and move 10 around terrain is kind of the same deal, I think, in this edition. In all the games I've played, the ability to move through terrain features has been of limited utility, I guess. I think we've valued we've determined the value of fly in a very 10th edition mindset where everything is like a wall that's a million miles tall in the middle of the table. But because of the way terrain works now with the new layouts, terrain's been extremely limited. Like true line of sight blocking terrain. And maybe that will change as the community adapts to the new terrain format. But it kind of feels like fly is sort of a nothing burger of a keyword currently. Because you just never need the extra movement around things. Yeah, all enlightened are on discs. It's all the disc guys, which is why they're like OC2 and mounted. There's also you can also like you could attach the shamans to them if you wanted to. If you play 3 with a shaman, the chance that you like kill your target on the charge is pretty good. The downside, of course, and the difference there is that the shaman can like basically leash your guys around terrain features by passing through them himself because he has infantry for whatever reason. So it doesn't let the rest of the unit go through walls, but it lets them like make charges that then allow them to pile in around walls. Essentially, it's just kind of a similar thing to like how, you know, having a faster model in a unit makes your whole unit move slightly faster because your threat range is increased, and it's sort of the same deal. I don't know necessarily. It feels like we're kind of throwing good money after bad if we're playing a 100-point unit of guys with a character versus just a 90-point unit of idiots. But I don't know. Could be. Yeah. The disc sorcerer doesn't improve them in melee at all. He just hits pretty hard himself because he's an exalted sorcerer, so he has a 2+ weapon skill melee attack. So like. He's also really expensive. He's like 130 points or whatever. So I don't know if necessarily how many points is he. Oh, he's only 100. Excuse me. But even then, I think the idea of these units is that like we want to just use them to steal our opponent's objectives, and that's something that I don't want to say that Thousand Sons can't do, but it's something that they don't really have otherwise in this capacity. They're not a melee faction at all, so they don't really have like access to long threat range melee attacks. And this detachment gives them that. So it kind of feels to me like this is better than I think we give it credit for. It feels non-flashy, right? It doesn't feel quite as flashy as Sekatar robots or as Regeneration. In my opinion, the Generation 1 feels like the craziest, but I think that there's only going to be a couple. There's like a limited use case for that, right? Whereas this could slot into any composition and it just improves all your utility. It's kind of like Farseekers or some of the other detachments we've talked about, the Outcast one, where it's like you just take the units you were taking already and it just makes them way better, which is not exciting or new or interesting, but it does feel very consistently good. I actually think this might be the best one. The Secretary Robot one certainly gives it a run for its money, but like, this is really good. I don't know. I guess I would like this. I don't know. Secretary robots are very strong, and you do have a lot of the same issues with these guys not being able to hide in things because they're not infantry. Um, but the like buffing your Zangors and your Mutalith Vortex Beast is such a big deal. So I don't know. Spawn are mutants, but they're not infantry, chat. That's the problem. The problem isn't the mutant keyword, it's the infantry keyword. Which is why Spawn don't get the advance and do stuff. The only thing that Spawn get is the detection range. I guess I don't know. They can get the Zangor Shamans on Battle Shock thing. There you go. Does the monster keyword stuff work on Demon Princes? No. Literally everything in the detachment requires mutant keyword. You have to be both mutant and whatever it is the thing is giving is like affecting. So you can't land Rise to put a Demon Prince through a wall because the Demon Princes are mutants. They're demons. They're different. Yeah. I don't know. I think this is neat. Yeah, we talked about the changes and stuff. Talk momentarily, I guess, about any combos that we might want to do. I think Hexwarp Thrallband's interesting with a lot of those. Hexwarp Thrallband might be my favorite place for the regeneration detachment. Warpforged Cabal plus Secretary Robots does feel silly. And I guess actually change host plus mutants, is that based? The change host has this problem where you don't know what to do with your command points because its stratagems are fucking atrocious. Like the entire benefit of change host is that it just gives you rituals for your Lords of Change. So, but the problem was like you need Thousand Suns units to give the rituals to the Lords of Change, and all of the stratagems are just like really mediocre defensive buffs for Lords of Change and like bitter defensive buffs for Screamers and stuff. And I guess like Ingress Screamers is like pretty spooky because they deep strike into terrain and then they hide and then they run onto objectives. So that's actually pretty good. But you oftentimes will have to take the Zangors and stuff anyway for change host because you need Thousand Suns units within 6 inches of you to give you the to the rituals, and so getting the mutant detachment there is actually kind of sick. That might be solid. I might be into that actually. That might be good. Yeah, Screamers are beasts. Yeah. They're very good. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that momentarily when we talk about what's the Chaos Demons, which we will do after we talk about Chaos Knights, which will be our next one. Grab the file. So our knightly boys over here get 3 detachment point Infernal Lance. Everything else is 2. Neat. And it might be that the Hound Pack detachment can't dual attack or can't stick together. I don't know why they wouldn't put those in the actual article. That blows my mind. Oop, this is Death Guard. Hello, Death Guard. What are you doing? Here we go. We'll look at erratas and stuff first. Oh yeah, their Forge World list is massive. I forgot. We're in Knights territory now. Harbingers of Dread Darkness ability is now just stealth instead of giving you an additional -1 to hit effect. That's non-stealth. Somebody commented on one of my videos today where we're talking about how the new cover mechanics are largely unstackable with existing defensive technology. And somebody was like, but it stacks with -1 to hit. And I was like, yeah, but like 80% of -1 to hit effects just give you cover. There are a couple of -1 to hit effects that don't, but so many of them just give you cover now instead of doing anything that applies in addition to cover. There's a very minor selection of things that you can use to duplicate with stealth, and most of them don't affect big stuff, which is the easiest, the easier the easiest like sort of applicators of melee and stuff. Or the easiest ways to the models that get cover more easily. I don't know why I tongue tied myself on that. Anyway, Hound Pack Lance. They changed the fight on death thing because it was really fucked. Malefic Surge looks the same. Hellforge Construction got the new Armor of Contempt update. Mirror of Fates, which is cut off on my thing here, so I apologize. Gives you the new once per turn wording for command point taxes. And Imperious Advance automatically passes Desperate Escapes and allows you to ignore the Super Heavy Walker 2+ to non-battle shock yourself. Neat. All right. Night Abominant Warp Storms changed to, at the end of your movement phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 9 inches of one or more models of this ability. On a 3+ to take mortal wounds. What is that? Is that different, or is that an old update? Oh. I did the classic thing where I found the Abominant datasheet, not the Night Abominant datasheet, and so I was confused about like why Night Abominants could regenerate from death. I was like, what? Nobody's ever used that before. I think this is an old update, yeah. Oh, because this used to stack a million times, right? Like it was just you could just do it multiple times because it was non-aura keyworded, and it was probably unintentional. Yeah, I remember that. All right, good to know. Doesn't look like many changes besides the -1 to hit outside 18 becomes stealth. Regeneration is a little treat. So maybe people play it now. Actually, I bet Volkite's kind of goated nowadays. Like low AP weapons, I'm having a much better time. I bet the Volkite's not too bad. Bastions of Tyranny. Friendly Knight Tyrant units target a battle shocked enemy. Get +1 to hit. Okay, fair enough. That also stacks with plunging fire that we can get, so don't forget about that. Terror Shade Rookery. Rookery is a good word. I love that. Enemy unit has a +6 detection range until this unit is shot, so you can see enemies 6 inches closer. Knight Tyrant can reroll rolls determining the attack's characteristic of his weapon. We love that. There's a Knight Tyrant thing that gives you a 5+ feel pending its mortal wounds. That's okay. You can fall back and shoot. Phenomenal and awesome. We love that. That's sick. Intimidating Reminder. Select one enemy unit hit by a Knight Tyrant's attacks. It is suppressed. While suppressed, it has -1 to hit. So that is an effect you can stack with cover, by the way. And as super heavy walkers, it is relatively easy for these guys to get cover. Just have to have stands mildly behind a building. So you can actually make yourself pretty annoying to kill. Or you have that darkness thing up, and then you're good to go. So there you go. All right, fair enough. I will say, I guess it's been so long for Chaos Knights. I don't know necessarily if I'm quite as up to date on the non Infernal Lance. builds for them. I know Lords of Dread was the Chad for a while, and now it's 2 detachment points. And we have Titanic Duel, which is sick. And 2 CP minus 1 damage. I think this effects are gonna be good. Like up down for the big knights is cool because you can drop 12 inches away and get +1 to hit against the thing. The stealth is unfortunate. R.I.P. Yeah, there's definitely some there's some play here. Iconoclast fiefdom is actually probably very interesting as well. You get infantry, which is good because you get access to hidden stuff. That's not demons. I guess you could just take demons anyway. But the other thing is that it gives you access to a similar level of output as you would get from Infernal Lands. You just, with the rider, that you have to take the damned units in order to do that. Because it gives you, like, instead of having to take the enhancement for assault, you can pay a command point to advance and shoot. And then you can sacrifice people to get the sustainer lethals that you would normally get from Malefic Surges. What it doesn't have, it's also got this like cute reactive move when you move near for Chaos Cultists when you move near a knight, which is neat. Oh, you're so right, chat. God damn it. Fuck. Yeah, Iconoclast item got rewritten, so we shouldn't look at any of this stuff. You're so right. That's the second time I've done that today. That's really annoying. I'm sorry, chat. That's my bad. I don't know. We're just gonna talk about what we got. I'm not gonna talk about the other detachments. Fuck it. Who cares? All right. Anyway, we talked about Night Tyrants. You can uppy, downy Night Tyrants. Maybe that's pretty cool if you play it with Lords of Dread. Hunting Warpack. It's a War Dog keyword, so you might not be able to take it with the other War Dog thing, but we don't know that because they haven't actually added that to any data sheets or detachments, which is very annoying. You can get +6 detection range for War Dogs, which is on visible enemies within 12 inches, which is cool because you can use the War Dogs to spot for the other guys, which is neat. Soul Spore Auspicator gives your ranged attacks +6 inches of range, and Executioners can get ignore cover. Those are all pretty good. Executioners, I think, a new lease on life with the cover changes. If you have ignore cover on them, and then AP1 means that you just like pure upside essentially, which is good. You don't get the -1 to hit, and you also don't care about any AP penalties because there's no save buffs from cover anymore. Insensate Bloodthirst gives you a 5+ feel no pain in the fight phase. That's great. Leash of the Masters allows you to shoot and perform actions. Also great. And Stalking Focus gives you ranged attacks -1 AP. I think the big question for this, or it gives ranged attacks against you -1 AP. The big question for this, in my opinion, is whether or not you are using War Dogs to, like, as your disruption or utility units. As disruption units, they feel very good. The weird part about War Dogs here is that you don't, because you can't hide them, you don't have the same level of staging as you do in other factions. However, being able to get defensive bonuses plus being able to like throw units onto objectives, throw carnivores especially onto objectives is kind of a big deal. So I definitely foresee a universe where Hunting Warpack as a 1-point detachment is good simply because we're going to be taking a small number of War Dogs in order to steal enemy objectives. But it depends on how well the terrain is it allows, how much the terrain allows a War Dog to like stage in a position where it can then reach the opponent's expansion objective the next turn. Although being able to push to the center objective is relatively easy. So we'll see. Iconoclast Fiefdom is the one that we almost just talked about for an extended period of time as being really good, but isn't because it's a one detachment point detachment now. So that's my bad. The downside of looking at the existing rules while I'm trying to compare them to the new ones. You can take up to 500 points of damned units. You interestingly, it's not 500 points for a Strike Force game. It's 500 points in total. So if you play a 500 point game, you could just take one character, I guess, and then the rest of your army could be damned. And if that character could be a war dog, which is kind of cute, and then you just take the rest of damned. Is that good? Absolutely not. Is it cool? I guess so. Oh, actually, no. You could take an accursed cultist with a demagogue, right? A dark commune, and then you can take literally no chaos knights. Pretty neat. Let's go. Cruel Lash Master is an update or enhancement for Chaos Knight units. I guess the funny thing for this is that because Hound Pack Lance exists, any of these 1-point enhancements could go onto. Obviously, these ones can't, but any of these ones. Well, these ones already go on carnivores. So these ones explicitly, I guess, could go onto War Dogs, potentially if we are taking Iconoclast Fiefdom plus Hound Pack Lance. I don't know if you would do that, though. Cruel Lashmaster gives a selected damned unit within 6 inches plus 2 movement. Phenomenal. We love that. Iconoclast Idol gives friendly damned units heroic intervention for free. Less exciting. Although good for pinning enemies into funny positions. So, like, if they charge your model, and then are going to pile a bunch of guys in, you could heroically intervene and pin them before they pile in. That's like the use case. Are you going to burn an enhancement slot on that and a bunch of points? I don't know, but it could be helpful. Most of the time, if your cultists are charging people, the cultists are going to die in melee anyway. So I don't know. I guess like if you're taking small units of accursed, maybe the accursed cultist can actually steal objectives pretty effectively. And so it's a -1 use of heroic intervention. So you could use 1 CP to do the 6-inch heroically intervene into anyone. So you could use it to defend objectives, maybe. However, it is only within 6 inches of the Chaos Knights model. So I don't know. It's of limited utility, I guess. Avenge the Masters gives damned units lethal hits against something that destroyed a Chaos Knight unit, which could be a War Dog, so it doesn't have to be the big guys. Dark Sacrifice targets one friendly damned unit within 9 inches of her friendly Chaos Knights model. You select Chaos Knights model within 9 inches of your unit and roll D3+3. You deal that in mortal wounds to the damned unit, and then you heal that number of mortal wounds. The funny thing about this that we talked about when this was initially released was that it doesn't have to be the number of wounds dealt to the damned unit that you heal. It's just the number you roll in the D3+3. So if there's one cultist, he can feed himself to a Chaos Knights model. He suffers massive overkill and dies. And then the Chaos Knight heals all of the wounds. That obviously requires that the cultist be alone. Otherwise, it would spill over the rest of his unit. But it is funny that you can heal more damage than you actually have dealt to your army. Coursing Thralls gives you +6 detection range at the start of your shooting phase. Against an invisible enemy within 12 inches of a damned unit. So you can kind of use that in place of this effect for 1 command point, which is actually kind of sweet. The problem is that it feels like the primary utility of this is that we're going to use it to add cultists to our army, but we can just take chaos demons. So, like, do we need cultists for utility? I guess, like, adding cultists to your army for you get obsec and you get like this thing that can make your guys faster, which is cute. And then you get the stratagem to heal. These other stratagems, like this, is probably helpful, but it requires that you be so far forward. Which is maybe it's fine. Maybe you can come in out of off the table edge. Like you can rapid ingress the cultist and then run in and do it. But this is like kind of whatever. Who cares? Fucking damned units get lethal hits. Okay, whatever. Yeah, Cultists I think currently are 50 points for 10. They're very inexpensive. And a Curse Cultists are like 85 for 10, but they actually hit hard and have scout and stuff. And then you can take like Firebrands and Trader Enforcers, which is where you get a lot, I think, of utility. So it's a good utility, but it like the question is whether it's worth a whole detachment point when we already have allies that can do a lot of similar things, not the same, but we do that for free. We just pay points, we don't pay detachment points for them. I don't know. It's a weird space to be in. I think if they had kept, I mean, maybe it would be too strong, but if they had kept the ability where your cultists could feed themselves to the knights to buff the knights, that would feel much more synergistic with a lot of stuff in an interesting way. This just feels like we're just taking guys. Can you take this plus allies? I don't see any reason that you wouldn't be able to take this and also take demons. It's a lot of non-Chaos Knight units in your Chaos Knight army, so I don't know if you want to do that, but I don't see a reason you wouldn't be able to do that. All right. I think that's all the Chaos Knight stuff. It kind of feels like we're adding Lords of Dread to things. I don't know. It feels like we could do Lords of Dread and take Bastions of Tyranny, and then we can apply our Bastions of Tyranny, like our Lord of Dread cool enhancements to the Bastions of Tyranny guys, which seems okay. But also, Infernal Lance is just really good too. So, I don't know. Infernal Lance might be better because of the new cover rules. But we'll see. Let's talk about demons. Let's talk about the cool faction rules. It's awesome. There is a clarification here. How to queue questions about the frame keywords several units have been given in faction packs. Keyword groups together all of the larger miniatures that don't have bases in their standard configuration. So all the rules that normally apply to these units always work as intended. I don't really know what the point of that clarification was, but okay. Anyway. Let's talk about demons. So demons get Demonic Incursion as 3 detachment points. Shadow Legion is 2. What? What? What is this? Are you for realsies? That's Demonic Incursion 3. Yeah, I get that. Fair enough. I do think I kind of feel that Demonic Incursion may be dead on arrival because the changes to how Deep Strike work is really bad. But I mean, it makes sense that all of the God-specific detachments are going to be 2 because that's like basically how all they've worked in all the other factions. I'm a little worried that Scintillating Legion's crazy good, but hopefully the stepping points values make it so that triple Lord of Change is like massively expensive and you won't do it. Shadow Legion at 2 blows my fucking mind. This detachment has 5 detachment abilities and an ally mechanic. What the fuck? What? What? That's nuts, dude. Oh my god. I don't think they thought that one through, chat. Let's see. Where are the new detachments? Let's look at erratas. Are there erratas? Probably not. It doesn't seem like any of these things are changed. Oh my god. It opened in Adobe and it's not loading. I just want to download it. Please. It's frozen. It's frozen. Why? I'm being destroyed by the software today. This is so bad, dude. Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god. Look at this though. We open it in Chad Edge and it loads perfectly and load so everything's smooth. We can scroll. We don't have to wait a million years for it to get updated. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, chap. All right. I'm gonna assume that none of these data sheets are different. So I think what we'll do is just try to find the new detachments, which are somewhere. It's weird that they wouldn't be in the beginning of the document. What if they just forgot to upload them? I would not put it past them. Hey, we found them. Let's go. I assume there's no errata document. Oh, there is an errata document. It's an FAQ document. There's a bunch of changes for Pink Horror Split. If a Pink Horror is destroyed as a result of its own weapon's hazardous ability, can it split? Yes. Because the unit has completed making attacks. It just works. I don't think any of these are new. Yeah, okay. Whatever. These are not new stuff. Let's talk about some detachments. Oh my god, these are the Legion detachments. The new detachments are like buried in the middle of the document. Fair enough, I guess. Here we go. Cavalcade of Chaos. How about, chat, let's consider, have you thought about whether or not we should make an entire detachment to buff the worst unit type in the game? That is melee, large base melee mounted units. So the thing here is we're talking about like units like Blood Crushers, which have like a 80 millimeter long base or whatever it is. And they can't chain engage people. So unlike previous editions, unlike every edition previously, where you could fight based on proximity to another member in your squad, that rule is gone. I hope it comes back for mounted units and for vehicles and stuff specifically, because it's fucking atrocious. Which means that if you have a big, giant based unit, you probably make attacks with like the first couple guys in the unit, and then you're done. So like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 guys. You can no longer be like dual rank your unit and attack with everyone. You have to like space them, which makes it very difficult to actually attack with everyone. So this feels fucking abysmal. I don't know. I'm assuming that this is basically just trash, essentially. I do think like if small seeker units and stuff are gonna be good, because it's just 5 models and they're just doing their thing. But like the big giant like 7-man Blood Crusher units, almost certainly unplayable. Especially because they have to make longer charges now too. So poopy. We have Unholy Avalanche, which lets you fall back and charge. The issue with these guys was a little bit falling back, but in a lot of cases they would like go in and then they would die anyway. So I don't know how often you're falling back. The Blood Crushers, if they engaged a bunch of stuff, being able to fall back and then like basically cycle charge is good. You do have to get there in the first place though, so we'll see. You can give a mounted unit +1 movement as an upgrade, which is good. We love that. Soul Shattering Charge lets you upgrade your unit to get a 3-inch engagement range if you charged. All right. You know what? Maybe I have spoken too soon because this ability is very good. It is unfortunate that we have to pay for an enhancement to make our unit playable. But this does solve that problem that I just talked about. So that's not too bad. All right. You know what, chat? Maybe I'll buy it. If we stick this alongside another detachment where we're using blood crushers, like a big blood crusher brick, it might be okay. There's some weirdness though, because mounted doesn't get hidden. You do need to be able to like protect yourself if you're ingressing to make a move, to make an attack. Because otherwise I do think they're going to have some threat range problems for sure. But +1 movement can help. You can get your guys to like move 11. So you can ingress into like Bellacor's Shadow Aura and then move and make probably a pretty reasonable charge. However, you can't both do that and have extra engagement range. So I don't know. From Beyond the Veil lets you... I don't know what it does. It lets you rapid ingress in your own movement phase. Okay. I guess you can ingress like after your opponent rapid ingresses is the idea, maybe. I don't know. Turn 1 rapid ingress? Does that work? I think ingress moves just have like a no... They just have a no turn 1 clause, right? Where's ingress move? Oh my god. Why does everything reference ingress moves before ingress moves themselves? Are ingress moves in the game? Hold up. Here we go. Here's an ingress move. All right. So I guess like the restriction against ingressing in the first battle round is just here. So the strat, I think the idea of the stratagem is that it gets around that. So it lets you ingress top of 1. Oh, but it's the end of any movement phase. Oh, you can turn 1 rapid ingress. Oh, okay. No. This is good, actually. Yeah, this is like a super fucky... This is a fucky wording. It should be... It should... Yeah. It should probably have in the effect that you can ingress move and like ignoring round restrictions or something. But it seems to me like the idea is that you can... Because it's end of either player's movement phase, so you can do it your turn to ingress move first battle round, or you can do it your opponent's turn to turn 1 rapid ingress. That's good, right? Turn 1 rapid ingress is solid. Also means you can combine it with normal rapid ingress. That's true. Yeah. I don't know how often you're going to do that, but you are playing demons, remember. You don't have any command points. But yeah, that is good. Warp Riders gives you mobile, solid, inescapable manifestations, makes you take battle shock checks when you fall back with people, yeah, whatever, or desperate breakout checks. In the strat, it says you can't do it turn 1. No, it doesn't say that. It explicitly does not say that. I think the intention of this ability is that you're able to ingress move at the beginning of in the beginning of the game. Basically the idea being that you can ingress move from the start of battle, which defeats the unless otherwise specified you can only do from second battle round clause. It seems like the idea. Otherwise, this is a weird stratagem. But being able to drop in either your or your opponent's first turn, pretty good. If you go second, you're just immediately hitting him with Blood Crushers on bottom of 1. Definitely gives a huge benefit to going second, which I think in a lot of cases is not too bad. Plus, you can take this Shadow Legion for some reason, so your Blood Crushers could be advancing and charging and get Lance. Woo! Let's go. Sick. Yeah, actually, so I came into this being very pessimistic. I thought that this detachment was going to be extremely bad, but it actually looks like it's pretty good. On a level, I would play this. I think it's got some chops. I don't know if I would necessarily like put all my eggs into the mounted basket, but there is some, I don't know, there's some funny stuff I guess you can do with like Rend Masters, maybe. I don't know. Like getting mobile Rend Masters is kind of a big deal because they're very slow normally. So I think that's good. Seems solid. Lords of the Warp, non-monster characters get +1 leadership and objective control. And you have 1 enhancement or 1 upgrade. Oh, okay. Well, here we go, Chance. We were talking about this earlier about upgrades that can go onto characters. It seems like upgrades will certainly be able to go onto characters because there's one right here. So I guess without having to even see any of the other effects, we can just attach upgrades to character units. So I think there was an article that implied that wasn't the case, but that's definitely wrong. That's definitely fucked. You can definitely put upgrades on characters. There might be a thing where it says like you can't put them on character units unless it's explicitly characters, but I wouldn't assume that. So all of these, as long as your keywords are correct, can be applied to characters, which is kind of awesome. Neat. That's good to know. I don't know if that recontextualizes any of the stuff we've looked at, but it's pretty cool. Carnival of Excess gives you Slanesh unit gets fight first and selects to fight next. So it gives you an interrupt for 1 on Slanesh only. Call to Murder gives Khorne character units +1 attack. Interesting. You can use this on mounted stuff. Which means you could, which will also, unless we see an addendum to it, will affect your Blood Crushers and the Juggernauts they're on. So you could have a Blood Master if you play this like with Cavalcade, a Blood Master with the Blood Crusher unit could get +2 attacks per model. The other thing too is that Rend Masters have 2 weapons, and so giving +1 attack to the Rend Master actually goes double far. And the Rend Masters are awesome because when they kill characters and monsters, they heal themselves and they get wound rerolls and stuff. So, having those guys just run in and be a little bit of a blender is kind of sweet for 1 command point. Bilious Blessing, also those are mounted too. Little theme here. I believe it will. We can double check here. But the extra attack weapons lost the clause that says extra attacks you can't be modified the extra attack weapons characteristic. So like I was saying, unless there's something about this in the rules addendum, you giving +1 attack to a model with two weapons affects both their weapons. So like the distortion we were talking about on Emperor's Children affects both the whip and the spear with +1 attack. Unless otherwise specified, I guess, caveat. So like, I don't know, that can go pretty hard. You can get an extra 14 attacks out of a Blood Crusher unit. Bilious Blessing lets you grenade people with Nurgle characters. It's okay. And swirling magics gives your ranged attacks lethal hits. Okay, that's whatever. Who cares about that? This is definitely not. This isn't like terrible, but it's definitely not that interesting. You do have to take some pretty inefficient data sheets to make use of this, which is not ideal. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that interested, honestly. I was like thinking of there's like non monster character builds that I'm like always interested in playing, especially in stuff like Shadow Legion. And then I keep thinking about them, and I'm like, well, all of the things I would do with them would be like are either anti-synergistic or have no impact on this detachment. This detachment's probably just not, I don't know. It's kind of dead. I don't really know if I'm really interested in this one. Warp Tide though. Oh boy. Oh boy. All Legiones Demonica battle line units, when they make an advance move, are eligible to declare a charge, and they gain assault. You just advance, shoot, and charge with every battle line unit in your entire army. Fucking okay. Sure. Seems good. We are playing Bastion Task Force, but in demons now. And also, like, we've already seen lists that use mass demon infantry, but in Shadow Legion, because they have like overlapping defensive buffs. And I mean, I really don't like that Shadow Legion is 2 detachment points. It doesn't feel like these should be things that stack together. I don't know. I'm no expert, chat, but this feels pretty broken. Yikes, dude. You get +1 strength on battle line units. That's fine for an upgrade. And Soul Hungry Slaughterers gives you Heroic Intervention Fire Overwatch for -1 command point. Yeah, whatever. Who cares about that stuff? We're really here for the detachment ability. Demonic Infestation as well in your command phase. A non-pink horror battle line unit can heal 3 wounds, which will either regenerate 3 like demonettes, for example, or I guess blue horrors randomly. Oh no, they're not battle line, are they? I actually don't know. Blue horrors are battle line. Yeah, go fuck myself, I guess. So you can regenerate blues but not pinks. Weird. All right. Blues do still split. They just split into 1 brim. And you can get a blue horror. I believe you turn a pink horror datasheet into a blue horror datasheet if you kill all your pink horrors. So you can like split your entire unit into blues. No, I think you just let's see. Yeah. If at any point the unit contains no pink horrors, use the blue horror datasheet instead. So if you kill all your pinks and they split into blues, and then you can then heal them because you're now a blue horror unit, which is fucked. um, kind of wild. All right, but that's like 3 models back. If you target demonettes, you get 3 OC2 models back. If you target plague bearers, you get 1.5 OC2 toughness 5 models back that also have like conditional -1 to be wounded. Soul Seeing gives you extra detection range, which is good for Lords of Change, so you can like combo that with Scintillating Legion potentially. Incorporeal Entities gives you a -1 to be wounded on battle line units. So you can apply the -1 to wound to your pink horrors in Shadow Legion, which are also -1 to be hit. I hope that Shadow Legion does not remain at 2 detachment points for long. I think when this might be, where's the Shadow Legion detachment? They just not printed in the codex, and that's how we fix it. Oh wait, chat, it's gone. Oh, it is here. Where is it? Oh, we found it. All right. Oh, it's just at the top. It's just separated from all the other detachments. Oh, what the fuck? This is fucked. Okay, so Shadow Legion is these pages. They like distributed all of the abilities around. I don't know. It is what it is. So I think that besides the Kroot hunting pack double wombo combo, this might be the most broken combination we've seen. I'm gonna call it now. I think it is. There's definitely there's good stuff elsewhere, but this feels to me like the strongest combination of two detachments. And maybe I'm over exaggerating things, but I don't know. It does feel crazy. Advanced shoot and charge for all of your battle line on an army that can already take a billion battle line things is wild. Yeah, they did change Zinch to be, instead of -1 to be hit, it's -1 to be hit in melee and stealth. So you're just -1 to be hit, but it doesn't stack with cover is the only thing that they changed, which is good. I appreciate that. Like I said, most -1 to hit effects have turned into you gain cover. Which means most of them cannot stack with existing cover. Honestly, positive change. We love that. There is also just access to stealth and an aura in this faction if you take a demon prince. Although the demon princes, the chaos demon princes don't have like any lone operative kind of thing. So let's grab their data sheet real quick. Oh, they do have it. Is this new? Hold up. Did they gain that previously? Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I'm stupid. I thought that was their downside for them, but they do have that. Let's look at our old rules. Is this a new thing? Yeah, it feels like they messed this up, which is honestly like kind of easy to do, having worked with PDFs before. PDF is like it's such a convenient file format for most of the time. Demon Prince of Chaos in the old rules. Oh, it did have this. It must have gotten this previously. I didn't realize that. But as we can see, it provides a massive aura where it gives all demon units stealth. So we can potentially apply stealth to a bunch of infantry, also -1 to wound to a bunch of infantry, also advance in charge to a bunch of infantry. So we could take like massive amounts of just OC2 idiots and basically stack so many defensive buffs on them that they're impossible to kill, and your opponent's like never going to be able to deal with them, which is already a extremely viable build in 10th edition, and it's just gotten like massively uppowered in 11th edition, which I super don't love. It's not my favorite thing in the world. This should absolutely not be a 2 detachment point detachment. There's no way in hell that you should get 5 detachment points or 5 detachment abilities for 2 detachment points. Get fucked. Stupid. And I'm saying this as somebody who plays demons. I'm like, I've been a demon main throughout the entirety of 10th edition. I think this is broken. Yeah, incredibly dumb. Anyway, I don't like it. I don't like it, chat. I do think that there's like not even talking about the battle line stuff. I do think there's also like legitimate combinations besides the battle line detachment, which I don't like. There are also other combinations of effects I think are going to be very strong with Shadow Legion. Like even the Cavalcade detachment seems like it could be very good because you do get just advance and charge in all your Blood Crushers. And so you can just like cycle in Blood Crusher units at a Rapid Ingress next to Bellicor and then run them in and charge people. That feels very strong too. That's a much more dynamic playstyle than take 120 infantry past turn. But We shall see. Those guys will also get like like hidden as well. Like they can hide now. So you're not just like deploying on the line and eating around a shooting turn one. You have to walk into a position where people have to charge you. There are also, I think, other combinations that are extremely strong. There are things like if you take any of these, they can combo with the with Warp Tide as well. So like Plague Legion's very good. If you take a couple of great and clean ones, and then you also take some Plague Bears and stuff, the Plague Bear is getting access to like advance and charge, and then you can also do their base movement characteristic buff, so that they move like 14 inches and then charge you is kind of insane. Yeah, I don't know. Incursion did get fucked. Although, actually, yeah, I think Incursion did get fucked. Well, maybe. Incursion's the only way, unless they change it, which I don't think they did. Incursion's the only way, or one of the only ways in the game to rapid ingress 6 inches. Yeah. So being able to rapid ingress with greater freedom is good. Also, Demonic Incursion giving you basically an unrestricted double up down is very good as well. With Realm of Chaos. So, there's also a weird thing here, and this I was hoping this would get addressed, but it hasn't. Where I don't know how this works if you use it bottom of 1. I think it does work. I was playing it. I did play a game with this detachment, and I just assumed that I couldn't use the strat turn 1. It doesn't say that, though. And it requires that the units you up down to drop in your next reinforcements. Oh, it also says reinforcement step. Oh, fuck. Oh, never mind. This stratagem doesn't do anything. Why does it do that? That's so stupid. Oh, man. Incredible. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive, Chance. There's no reinforcement step anymore. Why are we like this? Why are we like this? Incredible. But to my point, because the stratagem says that they arrive in your next movement phase, either the core rules do say you can't ingress turn 1 unless otherwise specified, and I believe that this is a clause in which you would otherwise do that. Although I don't think that rules is written this stratagem actually does anything. So at release, unless there is a errata somewhere, this stratagem actually just kills 2 units. I think it just kills two guys. They just destroy people. But basically, like, because the game blue screens if they don't come back down, they are required to arrive, assuming that you get rid of the reinforcement step clause, because that actually doesn't do anything. Take 2 units off the board, they don't return. I guess they enter strategic reserve. I would rule, I think, that you just erase this part of the stratagem, right? Because this part of the stratagem doesn't do anything, you do the first part where it's just that you just have 2 guys that go into strategic reserve, and then they just like vibe, which is how basically every other up down works, which would answer all of our questions and not open up this weird thing where there are steps that no longer exist, and also how this works on turn 1 is an open question. It's very simple if you just say that they're in normal strat reserve. However, I do think that if they remove the reinforcement step clause, you would be able to bring these guys back in turn 1. Destroy 2 units. So you also get being able to pick up 2 units and drop them potentially bottom of 1, assuming that this gets eroded in a way that makes sense. You also get Everstave. You get 6-inch rapid ingresses. You get advance and charge for command point, which is already good. There's like a lot to love about Demonic Incursion, and I don't think it's like super dead. I think it's way worse than it was, but I don't think it's like automatically dead, right? However, I do think that the other things you can do with these combinations is way more broken. Scintillating Legion plus, I don't know, fucking almost anything is like kind of wild. The fact that you can stack Scintillating Legion with like Warp Tide and you can get -1 to be wounded on like your pink ore unit, kind of crazy. Real talk, that's pretty wild. Plus we get to unlock reconnaissance for it, which is sweet. Scintillating Legion, if they don't massively upcharge Lords of Change, is going to be crazy because triple Lord of Change is going to be disgusting. I think Plague Legion, like I talked about, already going to be probably pretty interesting. Blood Legion, very good. I probably, the problem with Blood Legion is that it directly competes with Shadow Legion, and it's just worse. It's like different, I guess. It's like, it's not necessarily distinctly worse, but it's just different. But normally you would play Shadow Legion. If they're the same detachment point cost, you'd play Shadow Legion. So I think Demonic Incursion just gets overshadowed by the other stuff. Here's another thing I wanted to take a peek at is Bellicor. Because I was interested in seeing whether or not they change lone operative effects, and it seems like so far they haven't. They haven't yet. So this is another frustrating thing to me. It's like it's kind of like the support character interaction, where it's like we created this whole new mechanic. The new mechanic being we built lone operative to be a catch-all term essentially for effects that prevent you from being targeted from outside of a distance, and we've included infrastructure technology inside the rulebook that says you can have lone operative of any distance, right? You just have lone operative parentheses X, and it always has a consistent effect. Why the fuck does this not say units within 6 inches of this model gain lone operative 18? I don't know. I don't fucking know. And that's not the only example of that. There's a bunch of those. Why did we even write this like these new lone operative rules if we're not gonna apply them to the dude who is the lone operative guy? Stupid, dude. I don't know, man. Can't advance and charge into reroll charge? Oh, that's true, I guess. Because the advance and charge is used in the charge phase? Yeah, that's fair. Games Workshop's USR burned out. Yeah. They're like, guys, please stop making us USR everything. But like, but it's so convenient. It helps make the game so much cleaner. And they're like, no, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. You get to write out can only be targeted by ranged attacks if the attacking model is within 18 inches, but can still like be seen and attacked, by other stuff. Like this is mechanically distinct from lone operative in a way that's like really annoying. Lone operative says you can't have line of sight drawn to you or be targeted by indirect fire weapons unless you're within X distance. This says you can't be targeted by ranged attacks. It's only a ranged attack targeting restriction. But it also means that we're going to have things down the road that say ignore lone operative, which will ignore leadership effects that say you can't be targeted, for example, but won't ignore this for no other reason than they just decided not to USR it. Come on. And I had the same conversation about the Phobos Librarian too. The fact that they add USRs for this stuff and then don't actually implement them is so frustrating. I don't know. It also has the weird implication where sometimes you can target these guys with things that aren't like that other identical units wouldn't be targeted by, like marker lights and bolts of change and stuff like that. So yeah, it's silly. It's silly and it's dumb. And as codexes are going to release, we're going to see more and more things get like lone operative parentheses X as a keyword, and there'll be like a whole rules infrastructure to deal with that. And these will just be left by themselves and to be weird and dumb and annoying to rule around. And like judges are going to have to make specific rulings about them in a bunch of different ways. It's going to be very frustrating. I don't know. Unless there's an addendum, the refrain of the live stream, there might be an addendum in the rules commentary. We'll see. Anyway, chat. I think I'm I don't know. I think that's it. I for one welcome our new and old, I guess, demon overlords. This number is fucking wild to me. That blows my fucking mind. That's crazy, dude. Absolutely insane. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna be pretty wild. Good old demons. Demons looking good. Let's go. I also think there's a lot of good stuff in demons that's gonna percolate over to other things. Like demons having, in the context of the Chaos Super Faction, demons having lots of infantry, beasts, and swarms that are good at utility and deep strike is great for Chaos in general, especially if you compare them directly to like Imperial Agents, or Imperial Agents have a lot of like ground-based utility units that are pretty solid. They're good at holding back lines, but demons are good at going and taking objectives. And so things like Screamer units that you just deep strike into hidden and then run onto objectives are as available for every Chaos army, assuming that they have battle line to unlock them. I guess Screamers might be a little bit. I don't know necessarily if we're taking a lot of Screamers, but like Beasts of Nurgle and Nurglings are going to be fucking everywhere. The Beasts of Nurgle are great, assuming that none of the rules change around them. Being able to hide those guys, which is like the defensive equivalent of like a Rhino, essentially, that can benefit from the hidden mechanic, is crazy, and is 3 OC for a very inexpensive is extremely strong. Plague Bears being able to drop onto an objective, hide on the objective, and obsec it, crazy good. So I think there's a lot of ally play with demons in all of these factions as well. On top of that, so and then obviously the demon faction in general gets that. So that's also going to be strong. I do think, absent of some of the Xenos factions that we've been talking about recently, I do think Chaos stand the most to gain from the edition transition, and I hope that they treat them with care, because there are many ways that this could go really wrong in favor of Chaos factions and make them incredibly strong. Anyway, chat, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to hop off. We'll be live tomorrow with the final faction pack of the sort of preview season here. And I will see you then. We're also going to be live as soon as I finish that live stream. I'm going to jump in my little vehicle and I'm going to hop on over to the Atlantic City Open, and I'm going to live stream that all weekend. So please come hang out with me for that, for the live stream. So cheers, everybody. Keep it classy, folks. And I'll see you then. Have a good one.